Good morning. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Today is the March 9th Board of County Commissioners meeting. We are going to start with an invocation by Pastor Daryl Orman from the First Baptist Church of Stuart, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Bob Yago, Hall Bryan, VFW 10132. Please join us.
Pleasure to be with you, commissioners, and we're safe if a fire breaks out today, I think. I'd like to read this from our founding father, George Washington, a letter to the governors of our nation in 1783. I now make it my earnest prayer that God would have you and the state over which you preside in his holy protection, that he would incline the hearts of the citizens to cultivate a spirit of subordination and obedience to government, to entertain a brotherly affection and love for one another, for their fellow citizens of the United States at large, and particularly for their brethren who have served in the field. And finally, that he would be most graciously pleased to dispose us all to do justice, to love mercy, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, and temper of mind which were the characteristics of that divine author of our blessed religion, and without an humble imitation in whose example in these things we can never hope to be a happy nation. Father, we just want to tell you we love you today and thank you so much for these commissioners. Ask you to put a hedge of protection around them. Lord, we also thank you for the firemen that protect us, and we pray, Lord, also for each of them individually, that you would surround them by your Spirit and protect them and give them guidance and wisdom. And Lord, just look after them as they look after us. And Father, we just want to tell you we love you and praise you and thank you for allowing us the privilege to be born in this nation. And we ask you, Almighty God, just to glorify yourself in our lives. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen. Mr. Yago.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, today's agenda, we have no additional items and we have no consent agenda pulls. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
Approval of the agenda and consent.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. And we will have a proclamation today and special presentation to present a certificate of appreciation to Terry Garrett for volunteering at the Martin County Airport for over 6,000 hours. And that will be presented by, I believe, Mr. George Stokas.
Sam Carver.
Yeah.
Sam Carver,
Supposed to be.
welcome.
It's you now.
I don't see George.
Good morning, Sam Carver, Airport Manager. Yeah, we're losing a very valuable asset to our airport team. Terry's been working for no pay for over 10 years at the airport, and his customer service has been outstanding. He's one of the first people that people with noise complaints hear, and his soothing baritone voice really makes my job a lot easier. And we're really going to miss him. He's moving off to Texas, and we'd like to give him this proclamation and our appreciation.
Motion to deny his moving?
All right. I agree. Mr. Garrett, would you like to come up and speak?
Yeah.
Carrie, say a few words, please.
Say a few words.
Yes.
Well, it's been 10 years since I walked through the door and got interviewed for a volunteer job. I have never in my whole career ever been interviewed for a volunteer job. But I did, and got called back and said, yes, we'd like to have you. So I started and been about 20, 25 hours a week for the past 10 years.
and it's been very pleasurable, a lot of fun. We've done a lot of things. I've met a lot of you people out at the airport. Sarah's husband, met him. So it's been, like I said, it's been a lot of fun. George,
There he is.
you want to say a few words?
Hey, you're leaving. You can do whatever you want now.
I mean, you're standing over there. You're standing over there.
It's really hard to fire you.
When I heard that Terry was leaving, Sam and I talked, and I was asked to write a speech. And I know I'm a man who loves to talk. Just ask my wife; she'll tell me. And I really, it's speechless. I mean, Terry, you were a volunteer. You've seen me at my best. You've seen me at my worst, and you're a really good friend. And I'm going to miss you. I mean, it's just amazing what people get brought into your life, and I wish I had the voice like he does on the phone. I mean, so I am going to miss. I'm going to miss running into your twin brother at Home Depot and calling him Terry and making him upset. And that's all I can say is I'm going to miss you. And it's sad. But I wish you the best of luck in Texas. I hope you find an airport and you can drive that airport manager crazy too. So,
Terry, if you have a twin brother, is he interested in volunteering?
sure, yeah.
Why do you do the double drink like that? Any kind
There's sweat on the table.
oh, really? That's interesting.
So you take the hot one first.
Go Bears.
Round two.
I knew there was a strategy. I just didn't know what it was. Terry didn't thank his lovely wife.
Okay. All right, I have a few public speaking forms, so if you would like to comment, please fill one of these out and give to the bailiff. And I have a couple on items. So we're going to start with Nicole Ballard. Nicole will be followed by Carrie Force. Good morning.
I'm Nicole Bullard. I came here to address the conversation of Martin County, which, by the way, we love Martin County. My husband and I are both Jupiter transplants, and we love that we can call this place home. It's been a huge blessing to live up here. We live in Highborn Way in Hobe Sound, which is the very southern tip of Hobe Sound by the park. And there's been a conversation of the county about paving the two roads in our neighborhood that link into Hobe Hills. So it would be Papaya Village Estates, which is what we live in, and Hobe Hills, which is Papaya Village. We are just asking that this not be done. We just built a house in this neighborhood 4 years ago, and the quality of the neighborhood is very unique. It's quiet. It's all dead-end roads. It's a small neighborhood, and we like it because of the quietness and the privacy, which is a rarity, really, in this day and age. My husband and I live 3 houses in from the end of the road, and every single house going down about 4 houses has small children, one of which is ours, and they play in the road every single day. There's no sidewalk, so the road and the little cul-de-sac at the end there is where we all meet and hang out as neighbors and commune, and our children ride their bikes out there. We walk our dogs. So making it a through street connecting into Hobe Hills would be a disaster for us. We would be funneling a very large neighborhood into a much smaller one, and it would have a really negative impact on our safety. Also, the ends of Highborn and Sharon Street harbor a lot of animals, including gopher tortoises that we see every day walking through there. There's some preserves still in there, and paving through that to connect the 2 neighborhoods would just make a really big unnecessary environmental impact. So we're just asking the commissioners to please put that plan, so to speak, to bed, and just let us have the quietness and the gem of our neighborhood that it is. It's just really important to us. All, as neighbors, we've all come together and just have a really strong desire for that not to happen. So we're just asking you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. I see some new faces to public comment this morning, so I just wanted to lay out that we have 3 minutes for public comment, and then you will hear a tone at about 2 minutes and 45 seconds when you're speaking. That just means that you have that remaining time to 3 minutes, and those are the guidelines. And then, certainly commissioners will address any concerns during their comments. So our next speaker is Carrie Fours. And please, if I mispronounce your name, just go ahead and pronounce it properly. And Carrie, you'll be followed by Cynthia Wilson.
Can I take this off when I speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak. I am Nicole's neighbor, and I have exactly the same concerns. We have lived on Highborn Way in Hope Sound for about 12 years. We actually pursued that neighborhood aggressively by sending letters to property owners because it was such a desirable neighborhood. It has dead-end streets. It has well-maintained, nice homes with no property association. It's a beautiful neighborhood to live in. Just to give a history of that area, 70 years ago approximately, Hope Hills, Papaya Village, and Papaya Village Estates were plotted, and they were designed to be one neighborhood. For some reason, the roads were never extended from our section, which is Papaya Village Estates, into the other two neighborhoods behind us, Hope Hills and Papaya Village. 70 years it's been that way. That has made our section of the neighborhood very distinct. Our property values, if you look at records, they're higher, I think because of our dead ends. Our community is it's just a unique little community, and we are begging you to please consider that. We have heard through the grapevine that the roads may be put through and our neighborhood might be merged into one, making all three of those little communities one. We are asking that that not be done, please, for the sake of, like Nicole said, the sake of our children. I have 7 children, 4 of them we adopted from foster care. They play on our road every day. They need that exercise. They need to be there. We are the last house, well, second to the last house now on the street. Like I said, we built that 12 years ago on purpose in that neighborhood because of the dead ends. We also then, a few years later, built the last house on the street. At that time, we put the road in, we paved it, we paid for it, and we were told by the county that Papaya Village Estates and Hope Hills and the other part would never be connected because there's no need, because we had built the last house. So as of right now, there's a little dirt section separating the two neighborhoods. They are separate in our minds, and we are asking that they stay that way. It is detrimental to our property value. It's detrimental possibly to the safety of our children, our precious gopher turtles who live right next door to me. Just so many reasons we would love to keep our neighborhood the way it is. So thank you for your time. Thank you so much for serving our county. It is truly a privilege living here. I've been here my whole life, and I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Krista, did you have something?
Well, what they're doing, Commissioner, is apparently there's a survey that has been submitted to the residents of that neighborhood to see what the overall desire is, and they're waiting until March 12th, I think, Commissioner Jenkins?
I was going to mention it, but we had we're doing the neighborhood restoration project in the Hope Hills area, or Hope Hills community. So we had a community outreach meeting with Capital Projects, and this issue came up. This whole neighborhood was platted back in the old days as one complete thing. They had a idea of increasing the connectivity of the neighborhood. Obviously, there are people passionately against that. So to do the democratic things the democratic way, we sent a survey out to all the let's call it both communities, to get a handle on exactly who wants it and who doesn't. That is due on Friday the 12th. It will be tabulated, and we will have the results of that by Wednesday of next week. So I just, I've replied to some of the emails. I can assure you that the county, nor the county, wants to do anything that the majority of that community doesn't want. If we're not going to connect roads, we're not going to connect roads. It's as simple as that. It has created a much larger movement than I could imagine. But at the same time, people are very passionate. So, you know, we're just doing our due diligence at this point, trying to get a handle on it. I don't live in that community. I live very close to it. But you know, I can assure everybody in the room, the county is not going to do anything that the majority of the community does not want. So that's where we're at now. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Our next public speaker is Cynthia Wilson, followed by Sharon Italiano.
Yes, hi. My name's Cynthia Wilson. Mr. Jenkins, can I ask who you polled in the community for these votes?
Ma'am, public comment is just your 3 minutes. And
I'm sorry then. Yes, I would like to say I live on Sharon Street, Southeast Sharon Street in Papaya Village. We love it there. We just moved in last year. We came from Jupiter. Whenever we had an issue, we came from a dirt road back in Jupiter, and some people wanted to pave it, some people didn't. There were a lot of horse people, there were a lot of boat people out there, but whenever it happened, they pulled the people on the street, the ones that it affected. They didn't pull all of Jupiter Farms because it wasn't necessarily affecting Jupiter Farms, it was the people on that street. So I would also like to ask that you don't attach the dead-end streets to Hope Hills. We just bought a home there. We love it. It's a very beautiful area. It's very unique. It's cut off from everything else by the dead-end streets. Just 2 days ago, I saw a gopher tortoise walking up the street for almost 10 minutes. I mean, from one side to the other. I mean, how could that happen if you add another 20, 30 cars on that road and put it through? It's not going to happen anymore. It's going to be a danger to those animals. They're quiet dead ends. They're beautiful. We pay quite a bit in property taxes for that area. It's expensive, and we're paying for the premium of having exclusivity in that area. And I think that if you open it up, it's going to affect our property values, and they won't be worth as much. So I'm just asking. I love the area. I love Martin County. I'm happy to be here. I want to be a part of it. We bought on the park for the wildlife. I mean, and because it was a dead end, there is no other place I can tell you in Hope Sound that's like Papaya Village. It's very small. And Hope Hills is a beautiful area too. But they're different feels, they're different communities, and I just ask that you don't cut that through. Thank you.
thank you. Our next speaker is Sharon Italiano, followed by Kim Nash.
Good morning. My name is Sharon Italiano, and I just moved into the neighborhood. I live over on Sharon Street. And I tell people it was named after me, but everybody knows that's not true. Anywho, I want to thank you all for being here and allowing me the opportunity to speak. I don't want to be tone deaf to what you just said regarding the process and so on. However, I do want to mention that in addition to what my neighbors have said, in which I agree with everything, that I think the roadway, the impact on Route 1 is going to be significant if that happens. It's very dangerous there as it is. The cars line up, as you know, and leave, and there's a turnaround right there at the beginning of Hope Sound that I think would be greatly affected. So I would like you to consider that too when you think about this initiative and tabulate the votes. And I thank you for considering not doing this.
Thank you.
Sharon, just to let you know, the road was actually named after you.
That's what I say.
Well, now you know it's true.
Our next speaker is Kim Nash, followed by Zachary Aldridge.
Good morning, Kim Nash. I'm not here to talk about tobacco. I'm here because I also live in Papaya Village Estates, and I know a lot of the points have already been made. We're really concerned because this issue, I moved there 2 years ago. My husband and I tried to buy a house in that community for 7 years because we loved it. Nobody ever moves out because it's a wonderful place, so it was really challenging to purchase there. But since we moved in, this issue kind of kept coming up, even though a lot of our neighbors, myself included, were told that those roads would never be connected. We bought on a dead end because we have a small child and we want to live on a dead end. We also border Jonathan Dickinson State Park, which is valuable to all of us. It's such a precious resource, and we want to be good neighbors. We want to be able to keep our community small. We have many dead ends in the community, both through Hope Hills and Papaya Village Estates, and they're very valuable to us. One thing I also wanted to mention is this summer when we had unforeseen flooding, several of the houses at Hope Hills Drive, just below the easement that's in question right now, the one that I live off of, flooded. They had 3 feet of water. The only place that they could pump that water was this easement in question. It's the only permeable soil in their area that they were able to offload that water. I can't imagine if that was paved, what would have happened. I'm sure their houses would have been completely flooded. So I just ask you to consider that. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for hearing my neighbors. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, our next speaker is Zachary Aldridge, followed by Tanya Hireman.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Yet again, another neighbor of Hope Hills. I'm actually the house that is right on the one of the connections in question, which would be Southeast Highborn and Duncan. I have the house in the corner there on Southeast Hope Hills Drive and Duncan. So just to echo what Kim said, I actually was involved in helping the 3 or 4 neighbors that had 2 or 3 feet of water last year in their backyards, to the point where they were having septic tank failure. And I just echo what she said, because I was there helping on a daily basis, that area of land is the only thing that took the water, was the only thing that was permeable. There was one completed paved section of Flamingo and Karen Street, just to give an example. And there's a gentleman that lives at the southeast corner, northeast corner of that road. And where it was paved, there is it goes up in elevation from where he is. During those rain periods, he's lived there for about 20 years. And has never had any issues with water. He now had about 6 months worth of water, standing water there. His house 360 degrees around completely, to a point where he couldn't even access his house and had to rent a diesel pump just to pump for that situation. So deductive reasoning, I would have to say that paving really does not help percolation and definitely water issues, which is, I think, our number one situation. In the neighborhood, to help those neighbors out. I'm lucky enough to live on a hill where I don't have to deal with it, but I know that those connections are important not to pave, due 100% to water. There's a plethora of other reasons. I think a lot of other people in the neighborhood have touched on those: wildlife, gopher tortoises, kids, specifically our connection there at Highborn and Duncan. If that were to take place, it's over a mile stretch of road. There's already some issues there, but I think that would just exacerbate those issues. And it's just something that we really don't want. I've lived there for about 7 or 8 years, and I've continually asked. I've contacted a couple of your staff members over the years, and I really always get this, we're not really going to do it. It's not really going to happen. But yet you see people measuring out there. You really don't feel like you can get a clear answer. So I'll leave you with this. Commissioner Jenkins, I know that you're here and elected because you want to preserve what we have in Martin County. It's very special overall, Hope Sound being a gem there. So I think this would be something with people coming forward, being excited not to connect these things and to have preservation in a really unique neighborhood concerning wildlife, what people want in a majority, and also helping with the water issue. So I think those are all very valid and important points. Thank you for your time and your service, guys.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tanya Hireman, followed by Van Garner. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. I'm Tanya Heineman. I live on the Hope Hills side, which is on Sharon Street in the middle, and we also live on a dead end. And just to kind of give you a little background, I did call and speak with the Public Works gentleman in June of last year, Mr. DeZamba, and he said, well, maybe it's waste management. Maybe they need to be able to turn around the dead ends. Maybe it's fire rescue. So I went and contacted each person, each entity. I spoke to Jeff Saban at Waste Management, and he said, nope, there's no problems. We've been navigating those dead ends for years. We don't have any problem. He gave me that in writing, shared that with Public Works. I spoke to a couple of people in the fire department, and I think you even have lots of them here. They are some of the most talented navigators of any street. They have competitions all over the world about how quickly they can get in and out of stuff. There's nothing that's going to hold fire rescue back, and we have a fire department right across the street from our neighborhood. So it's not fire rescue, it's not safety, it's not managing the streets, and from our perspective in the neighborhood, we work together on the dead ends as a community to protect the rest of the community. On Christmas Day, 5 years ago, I had a gentleman come walking up to my door Christmas morning. Oh, do you have a cigarette? I'm trying to quit. I have a patch. And I said no. And then I followed him to see where he went. As he's walking out of my community, he's calling somebody saying, hey, somebody's here. So he was casing our community. Another neighbor had already called. We talked to each other. And do you know the police came and picked up that man before he went into any other part of the community? So we work together, but those dead ends help us. So it's not just one dead end we want protected. We want in the entire community, all of Hope Hills, all of Papaya Village protected so that we can be a safe community. We're right off of US 1. If you have a lot of connections, you're going to have a lot of opportunistic criminals coming in and out, just like that guy did before he found out that's not a place you can be successful robbing. So if you don't have those dead ends, when you just think about it, when you're driving somewhere and you see no outlet, are you going to be going down there if you don't live there? No. But if you don't see there's a no outlet, you're going to, oh yeah, what's here? What can we? But we're property owners and we want to protect our neighborhood. We want to protect our children. And we need your help to do that. And all over the country, they're looking to put in dead ends, looking for ways to limit speed and crime. And we just want to protect the community that we have so we can feel safe. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Van Garner, and will be followed by our last speaker form, John Bosco.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you directly. To restate some of the facts that Tanya just stated, my background is law enforcement, almost 35 years. Public administration graduate degree. I'm familiar with planning, development, and crime. In terms of crime, putting the streets through provides 2 ways in, 2 ways out, interconnects everything, better escape route. I mean, statistically it's shown over and over. In terms of laying out developments, we are putting in dead-end streets, roundabouts, not connecting them for this reason. I can cite numerous cities, Riviera Beach, Lake Park, so on and so forth. That's just a factor that's given. In addition to the community as a whole, it's very close, very tight. Everybody works together, as Tanya stated, and to put those through, it's going to destroy them. The argument as to fire, rescue, trust me, if the sheriff's office has to get in, they're going to set down in there. And there are numerous ways out with all kinds of warning. And as she also stated, the fire department right across the street. I implore you to really give this some thought, please, and look at all factors, not just individual interests. Thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, our final public speaker this morning on during general public comment is John Bosco.
Good morning. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you, neighbors who are passionate about the area. A lot of reasons for keeping this all closed: children, safety, no sidewalks, tax revenue loss. I just want to talk about the water. Someone eloquently did a much better job than I can. What's going on is when you pave a road, it's the worst thing you can do for the water. We went to the meeting, your engineers talked about percolation on the sand, and I think percolation is the most important thing. And that's what's going on here, and you have to have the ability to put water in place, and what happens where these roads are going through is really, really crucial to that in the neighborhood. So as you guys know, you are the guardians of Martin County. I read that in your agenda that's coming up later today. And as guardians of Martin County, you should seriously think about what you're doing here and what you're going to do to the impact of the people that live in this area. When you put blacktop down, there's a lot of other things that happen. You create what it's called an urban heat island effect. You make the entire area warmer, and it's bad on the animals, and people's air conditioners have to work harder, and it's hotter. Last summer was a typical rain. Somebody eloquently spoke about how these areas were used to capture all the rainwater and prevent further damage to people's homes. And that's really, really important. This is an animal crossing area. These are a block off the park, which is the Dickinson Park, which is huge, and there are animals there, so if you're thinking about it. And I have driven by the intersection at Flamingo and Karen. If you want to see what not to do, go over there. It's the problem created is bigger than the problem probably to prior. There are alternatives, but pretty much right now I think what you really need to focus on is focus on keeping the neighborhood good and well, and the safety of the children and the movement of water and for the turtles. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day. Get home safe to your families.
Thank you. Okay, that looks like the last general public sir. Are you speaking on an item? Yes. What is your name, sir?
The host would like you to unmute your microphone. You can press.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, I have you written down here for public hearing quasi-judicial number 2. You can speak now if you'd like, but if you'd like to wait for the item, that will be later in the meeting.
Oh, okay. Then that was for the MacArthur Golf Course?
Yes. So I have three speakers that will be speaking on the item. Larry Thomas, I can't read this, maybe Mr. Guerin, Guerin, G-E-N, maybe E-O, and Joan Goodrich. So those will be as the items come forward. And we're going to move on to commissioner comments. And Commissioner Hurd, would you like to start today?
I'm set.
Commissioner Campy.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It was just a couple of weeks ago that the commission and those that were here or watching on TV had the pleasure of listening to one of Martin County's most iconic residents as she was being awarded the Florida Women's Hall of Fame, one of only 3 in the state of Florida this year to be nominated. It is, as you can imagine with any Hall of Fame, an extreme honor that is only given out to the most well-respected women in the state of Florida. And her name was Thelma Waters. She is the pillar of Indiantown, and sadly, in the last several days, she has passed away. So we are thrilled. I'm personally thrilled. I found her to be a remarkable woman and a dear friend. She was someone that when she liked you, she loved you. She was all about hugs and kisses, and her sweet personality sort of covered the fact that she was a very strong, very smart, very efficient woman and a protector of her community, whether it was children, minorities, migrant farm workers. She has a decades and decades long history of working tirelessly, and really back in the days when a woman of color stepping out and speaking against power, if you will, could have gotten herself into danger or at least trouble, but she didn't care. And Indiantown and Martin County and Florida is a better place because of Thelma Waters. She will be honored this Friday in Indiantown, Thursday and Friday, I believe. There are details if you're interested. I think on Friday it's at Timer Powers Park. It starts at 11, 10 o'clock to probably noon. And I just wanted to publicly thank her and tell her family that we are grieving with them and the whole town of Indiantown. She was a remarkable woman. I could probably count on one hand the people who individually changed their society for the better, and Thelma was one of them, and she will be missed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
I echo everything Ed just said. Thelma was truly an amazing person. You know, it's interesting, and to all of Ed's thoughts and comments, if you were to go to Indiantown and if you were to get engaged in the community and do something, Thelma was always present, and if she wasn't there physically, she was there sort of in the background guiding the conversation, and you could tell where her footprint was because you'd obviously hear about it at some point in time. And the really cool thing, and Ed's right, I mean, you in life probably come across 1, 2, maybe 3 people in your lifetime that have that type of commitment and talent and love for a community. But the neat thing about Thelma was that, you know, I, with the exception of Harold probably, all of us are transplants to here, and we're not from here, and oh, that's right, you were. Shoot, you're
Not Indiantown.
yeah, all right. Well, 3 of us out of the 5.
The majority of us.
The majority of us, and so, you know, you could go to a community like that, not being from here, and somebody doesn't necessarily have to accept you. They don't have to say, gee, you're not from here and you're not really raised from here, and I don't have to give you really the time of day. And Thelma was that kind of person that was the polar opposite of that. She embraced every single person that came into contact with her, and loved the challenge that if you weren't on the same page, that the challenge of trying to figure out how to get on that page with her was something I think she really truly enjoyed, because that was Thelma, making things happen and making the best out of what everything could be. And Ed's right. We are a better place. Indiantown is certainly a better place for having, you know, the lifelong contributions of Thelma to our community. And you know, think about timing. That Thelma actually got to see and be awarded that award was like really within months of timing, and how special for her and her family. And Ed, thank you for bringing all that up, because it's a really important thing. And if you have time, and if you can set aside some time, to head out to Indiantown and spend some time out there with her family and friends, and understand maybe a little bit more what it's all about. And with that, I'm all set on the rest. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Jenkins.
So I've said this more than once, this experience of privilege that I have of being a commissioner. You know, I think as we get older, you know, our group of circle of friends diminish, you know, and we get comfortable, and, you know, there's people we don't want to be with. And so that circle, my circle of friends, you know, 4.5 years ago was relatively small. Then I get elected, and that exploded. And the circle of reconnection of friends I went to high school with that I haven't talked to, and all this. So my dad knew Thelma. I didn't necessarily know Thelma. I knew of Thelma, but I know that my father and Timer and all that whole crowd interacted with her. I had the privilege of one of the first constituent sit-downs I had after I got elected was with Thelma. And anybody that knew Thelma can relate to exactly what I said. It was a one-sided conversation. She told me how it was going to be, right? And she was a great person to bounce ideas off of for a long time until she got sick. And that big circle of friends right now, there's spots in that circle of people that are very important in your life that you really don't appreciate until you don't have that person anymore. And she was one of them. She was really a outstanding pillar of her community, cared more than anybody I know, and was absolutely the most passionate person in the world. And she is going to be missed by me. I had a lot of fun with her. She was a very fun, had a great sense of humor, and was wonderful. I have the details. I'm sure you have something to say about it in this Indiantown. So if you want to do that. But not to change the subject, but I have 2 other little things. I'm spending $672 of my MSTU district funds for the Hope Sound Wildlife Center to conduct some programs in the Civic Center in Hope Sound. Then I took up Commissioner Hurd's recommendation, and yesterday John Mayo took me down to the EAA reservoir in STA. They're doing the intake canal. I was also joined by Kathy LaMartina, and we did a tour. I can just say it was cool. It really was. And to watch, they blew up 700 feet of rock, and to watch that, to experience that was really neat. But I think just going down there and seeing the scale of what we talk about quite a bit, and understand the mechanics behind it, and look at how they're constructing it, is a very, very worthwhile effort, and I highly recommend the rest of you going down there. It was really an interesting experience, so I enjoyed it. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. And I will say this, I had an opportunity, I look forward to taking that tour of the EAA, but I had an opportunity to fly over the way they have rechanneled Kissimmee River restoration from these straight ditches down Florida, these wide straight ditches, to the way they reconfigure the way Florida used to be, and it was absolutely amazing. I've really never had the opportunity to do that, and it just to see, when you're on the ground in old Florida, and then to see that from the air, the way they have put back what nature intended was pretty amazing, and I look forward to seeing the EAA reservoir. And then I will echo some of the comments on Miss Waters as a native, growing up in Indiantown. And Indiantown, right? So, not a transplant, but as a little girl, I remember Thelma, not only was Thelma, known as the godmother of Indiantown, she was the mother to her family, but she was a mother to really the entire town of Indiantown. And she was firm and feisty, and she definitely would let you know what's on your mind. And as kids, when you saw Miss Thelma, you were definitely walking the straight and narrow, and I know that she will be so missed, and I echo just everything that you all have expressed, and I send my condolences and my prayers to her family. And Indiantown and Martin County is a much better place from all the work that Thelma put in it. Her celebration of life will begin Thursday, March 11th, with a wake at the Family Worship Center, which is on Indian Mound Drive. That will be from 5 to 7 p.m., and the last viewing will be the following day at Timer Powers Park on Citrus Boulevard from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., followed by the Celebration of Life service. After the public celebration, a private interment will follow at Port Mayaca Cemetery with a family service. And we appreciate again, and I'm so thankful that we had Thelma join us a couple weeks ago. So that concludes my comments. Miss Krista. Miss Woods? Oh, okay. All right, are there any commenters on Zoom? No. Okay, we are going to move our agenda a little bit today because we have quite a few people for departmental number 3. And I see, and so we can clear out the gallery. And lobby. So departmental number 3 is the confirmation of Chad Chinchilli as Martin County's Fire Rescue Department Fire Chief.
Yes, Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity. So, as County Administrator, I have the ability to make recommendations to the board for hire of department directors, particularly. But the Florida state statutes require that my recommendation be favorably confirmed by the Board of County Commissioners. So the position of fire chief became open. Chief Schobel, as you know, last year took an early separation, and then we had recently Chief Herndon also participate in that. So the fire chief position became vacant. We did interview, we advertised the position internally. The commission, and the reason for not going outside of the department is in the past that has demonstrated not to be a favorable approach. And as you all know, I am a product of being promoted from within. And I enjoy the opportunity that presents. And I think as an organization that being able to promote from within is always, again, an opportunity for our employees. And it makes sense. Mr. Chinchilli knows the operations of that department. He's been here for 25 years. He's also a veteran, which we appreciate his service. And he has held many different positions throughout fire rescue. And as you can see, what we have here today is his leadership. All the men and women that are being represented here. We also have class 38, your recruits. There's 17 of them out there. They're all the ones that look so young. And they are going to be graduating at the end of this month. Hopefully, they're all going to be there. And so they are here as well to observe and see this affirmation of Chief Chinchilli. So normally these items are on consent, but because this is a more formal position from the standpoint that the fire chief actually gets a pin or a badge that represents, he also has, or she has also other elements of their uniform. As you can see, Mr. Chinchilli's here in his formals. And so I am looking for the board to provide me with a favorable confirmation of Mr. Chinchilli to fire chief, and then he will assume that role as soon as the board takes action.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Krista. And we have a couple lights on, and I'll take them in the order of which they came on. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is a great honor and a privilege to do just that and to make a motion that we would favorably confirm. Chad is our new Martin County Fire Rescue Chief.
Second.
You have additional comments?
Of course.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
Really?
That was a rhetorical question, wasn't it? We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, and we have it seconded by Commissioner Campy. Commissioner Campy, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll start right off the bat by telling you I'm friends with Chad. He is a remarkable individual, and I know that when Ms. Krista was going through the process, and she had mentioned this, I believe, to all of us, he's a standout. He really is. He's got 25 years of fire rescue experience in our community. And when Ms. Krista talks about hiring from within, anyone that's worked in a company or knows about business understands that if you have bench strength, you, as the employer, do yourselves a tremendous favor and the community a favor by hiring from within. They already know, not that there aren't excellent candidates that can come from outside of the community, but there is no learning curve. There is no break-in period. There is no orientation period when you hire from within. I'm a huge proponent when we did it with Ms. Krista or promoted Mr. Donaldson or promoted Ms. Woods. There is, and obviously those three individuals that I use as examples are tremendous examples that benefit our community. There is no, I could go on forever. I'm a huge proponent, but at the top of the list, those are just three examples, and Chad will join that group as an example. He has, he was in the Army. My son is in the Navy. Go Navy, beat Army. But with that said, here's a man who served his country, and not only that, his wife has served our community at the Martin Memorial, now Cleveland Clinic, and she has done a remarkable job. Julie as an ER nurse and specialist, and now she's in their administration. They are a family of community service for us, so much so that their two sons are now serving in the U.S. Army as well. We could not have made a better selection. He's a strong leader. He has a calm leadership style. Like me, he's a man of few words. And I think that we couldn't make a better choice this morning. I do know that, having spoken to Chad, that one of his first orders for everyone else in the department is that everyone shaves their heads. So I hope that that goes over well. I see a lot of great hairdos out
Cleared
there.
out half of the back room.
Yeah, but everyone will be bald, voluntarily bald. And so I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to welcome you to lead our organization of remarkable individuals. Thank you.
Commissioner Jenkins.
So I have a little bit different experience with So everything happens for a reason, right? So when I was campaigning right there at the end, me and Chad, it was a train wreck, man. So you know, and a lot of it was misunderstanding. A lot of it was, you know, anyway. So I had the opportunity to interact with Chad with a little bit of a critical bend, right? So 4.5 years later, I am honored to, he has proved himself as an ultimate professional, knows what he's doing, and you know, that whole exercise was completely unnecessary that we did in the beginning, but you know what? It benefited, you know, at the end of the day. You know, everything happens for a reason. Chad's a wonderful guy, has the respect of everybody around him and under him, and I'm very happy to support him. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, after doing this for 20 years, you get to work with a lot of interesting people through the years. Fire rescue, I've had the privilege to work with all sorts of leadership and different styles of leadership. It's been an amazing run and an amazing process, and I've got to work with Chad in a whole bunch of different capacities. I'll leave it like that. And you know, the cool thing about this organization and all of the leadership, including George, you know, and I want to like just digress for a second, because one of the reasons there are Chads of the world, and one of the reasons why we have the department heads, we have the chiefs, we have all of the levels of leadership we have in our community lead back really to a person. And if it weren't for Taryn's leadership, quite honestly, so much of what we have here wouldn't exist. And that's the talent of this place. We are so lucky to have Sarah Woods. We are so lucky to have Taryn, Krista, the leadership team that Ed mentioned and left out George.
George who? Oh, still.
No, but seriously, you know, really, it is for the guys and women in the back. You have joined or are about to join an amazing place, and Chad is a piece of it, but an important piece. And it's so cool to have been part of knowing Chad for the years I've known him, and in the different capacities I've got to know him. I never had the experience you got to have, thankfully. Didn't have to go through that, but nonetheless. It's really, really cool. And Taryn, again, it is your leadership that has helped create the framework of this place, that there is an expectation of whether it's brought from within, which, you know, is a very important part that I think sometimes gets overlooked, or even sometimes we bring in from the outside. But it's that ability really to recognize talent and take that talent and push it, and push as hard as you can, so that we end up with the Chads of the world, that end up with the leadership roles that they end up with to create the great place that we're in. So Chad, congratulations on being here. Congratulations on your new medallion on your jacket. It's really cool stuff. Badge, sorry, medallion, badge. But what a privilege. Thank you very, very much for everything.
Great. And I have it's hard to add to all of that because I agree with everything that everybody has said. And fortunately, I also did not, you know, I've known you years before I was elected and didn't have quite the experience with Commissioner Jenkins. But one thing I can say is, Chad, you are a direct communicator. You're a good communicator, which I personally, you know, respect. And you're a tough and respected leader. One thing I will say, whether you agree or disagree, you know, Chad certainly is a very well-respected leader, and that's the true quality of a leader. And I think that, you know, it's your qualities and some of our other leadership that makes Martin County the wonderful place it is. So again, I don't know how much more I could add, but I appreciate, you know, having known you, your leadership style and quality, and your communication. I know that you're going to do a fantastic job because, in my mind, that's half the battle is communicating. And we welcome you and appreciate your leadership. So, with that, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
wife gets to do that.
Well, his Burke wife does.
Yeah.
And we have Julie, his wife, is going to do the lapels. I'm not sure where they go though, Julie.
I think they go right back where
Oh,
these are.
okay. Just replace those with those.
And then we've set aside 45 minutes for your comments.
Or 45 minutes for fumbling fingers. There you go.
Doing a good job.
Oh, we'll see.
It's a bulletin board. You just stab them right in.
It's not an airborne fence, I can't really.
I think she served in the military too. Yeah.
Congratulations.
And both sons, right?
Yeah, the whole family.
I know. You got two women standing with you. What to do all the time.
Try to. There you go.
Well, I want to thank you for the confirmation. I want to thank County Administrator for endorsing me. Thank you for your confirmation. And I got to tell you, I'm kind of going to go with Commissioner Jenkins. We did learn a lot from each other. I'll give you that. But what I did learn from him is he's a man of few words, but he's straight to the point, and that's my form of communication. So
Mine too.
that's exactly it. So again, I thank you all. I thank the county administrator. I've had the opportunity to actually work with some leadership within the county, from the county administration itself to the HR department, to the legal department. And I know this isn't new to you, but you have some phenomenal people that work in this organization, and I'm proud to be able to work alongside of them. They've been doing an amazing job. And I want to thank my wife for always being there by my side, also my favorite nurse for the past 22 years. It's 22, right? It's close. And to Fire Rescue, Martin County Fire Rescue, I just want to thank all the boots on the ground, Ocean Rescue or Communications or Fleet Services, all of our administrative staff, our EM. I mean, they have been really grinding, especially over this last year with this pandemic that's going on. And, you know, they go home and some of them have gone down because of COVID. And, you know, unfortunately, it goes to their families. But they recover, they get back up, they put that uniform on, and they get back out there and they serve. And that's what I'm proud to be a part of. And I'm proud to lead them to the next level, because we are going to the next level. So, again, thank you. I appreciate it.
So that's it. So as of this moment, you're now the fire chief for Martin County Fire Rescue. And you've got all the folks out there in the lobby as well.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And so that concludes departmental number 3. Thank you all for showing your support. And we're going to take a moment and let that the room clear out. And we're going to go to our preset, our 10 o'clock preset. Look at that, 10:01 on the dot. Yeah, about. And let's see.
Got somebody want to say something?
As the room clears out, the item that we will be hearing next is going to be the Loxa Lucy presentation by the Guardians. Greg and Tony, do you want to? You can come on up and start getting yourself adjusted. Yep. For those of you watching at home, we have probably a large recruit class in the lobby, and some congratulations of now Chief Chinchilli on the way out. Mm-hmm.
The host would like you to unmute your microphone. You can press *6 to unmute. You are unmuted.
They're closing the doors. Okay. Speaking of godmother. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, so I'm going to announce it again now that we have a cleared out room. So we have a presentation this morning by the Loxalucy group by the Guardians. So welcome and good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Peter Conzi, formerly Commissioner of Jupiter Island and currently the President of the Guardians of Martin County. And I'm delighted to introduce three other directors, may I say, of the Guardians who are here. Barbara Birdsey, Tony Zanino, and Len Susi. My colleague, our Executive Director, Greg Braun, will make our presentation. And all I will do is just underline the fact that we are intent upon preserving the quality of life in Martin County. And everything the Guardians do is aimed at trying to protect our future as well and the quality of life. So with those few words, let me introduce again Greg Braun. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you, Commissioners, for inviting us to make this presentation today. I know we have been talking about this Loxalucy Headwaters project for quite a while internally, but we appreciate being given the opportunity to present it to all of you today. Before I get started with the actual PowerPoint, I'd like to do two things. Number one, thank all of you for the work that you've been doing over the last year throughout the whole COVID situation. I know I certainly am an unfamiliar face. I've been avoiding the county commission meetings except by Zoom and other things as well. But we appreciate the time that all of you have put into making sure that the county continues to function as best we can. It's certainly been a difficult time for all of us. The next thing I'd like to do before getting to the presentation is introduce a couple of the members of our Loxalucy Headwaters team. We have been meeting weekly for over a year. Started off in person and then it went to Zoom and electronic meetings. So the other members of the team who I would like to stand up and be acknowledged are Tony Zanino, if you would. Tony's a key member in this whole project. Barbara Birdsey with the Treasured Lands Foundation. And it's really the Treasured Lands Foundation that we owe a debt of gratitude for kicking this whole project off. They came to the Guardians back over a year ago in the interest of trying to establish a bridge road conservation corridor as a tribute to Nathaniel Reed. And once she found out and the Treasured Lands Foundation found out about our greater interest in connecting the two state parks, it turned into a larger project. So Barbara was the founder of the Treasured Lands Foundation, and in front of Barbara is Chuck Barraclough, the Executive Director of the Treasured Lands Foundation. Other members of the team are Jeffrey Smith, local artisan and artist who has been helping us out. We appreciate that. And Matt Sexton with the Conservation Fund. Matt's the Regional Vice President for the Southeastern U.S. for the Conservation Fund. And he came to us because of his experience in the Loxahatchee River system over a decade ago. So he's our go-to person on the knowledge about how to make land transactions take place. He's our contact with the Division of State Lands up in Tallahassee, and he's certainly the one who can address detailed questions about the economics of what we're trying to do. So thank you all for taking the time to be here. I'd like to move here to be able to control the PowerPoint, which hopefully you all have had a chance to go through. If you have, I'll go through it fairly quickly, but then leave some time for questions and answers. So this really is what headwaters are. It's not the pretty flowing river of the Jonathan Dickinson and the Loxahatchee River. It's not the pretty flowing river of the South Fork. It's these areas of very low-lying wetlands. Maybe they're dry or certainly not much standing water during the dry season, but as we get into the rainy season, they fill up with water, and that water slowly starts moving, just as sheet flow, a couple inches deep, towards those other rivers. So we appreciate Jeffrey Smith and the use of his drone to get this outstanding picture of the Loxahatchee headwaters. Often as you drive down Bridge Road, you see that wall of green, but you don't really understand that there's this myriad, this mosaic of uplands and wetlands back in the background. Just to give you a sense of perspective of what we're looking at here, this is an overall map showing the general boundaries of the project. So on the north, the residential areas on the southern side of Cove Road are the northern boundary of the property. But for the most part, it's the whole sandwich between I-95 on the west and the west side of the urban areas along the US 1 corridor on the east, and down to and including parts of Jonathan Dickinson State Park. This graphic may look familiar to several of you, although it's an old one, developed by the county back in August of 2011. And I put it in here to show you that indeed the acquisition of these parcels has been on the county's radar screen and certainly the conservation community's radar screen for over a decade. And as you recall, when this was being put together, we were looking at trying to permanently protect kind of a corridor of green spaces throughout the county. So this certainly includes the C-44 reservoir, which was kind of a goal of people's in people's eye over a decade ago. It includes Allapattah, which you were all recently at for the reopening of the wetland restoration project that was done out there. Similarly, the Treasured Lands Foundation had a environmental quality analysis that they did a number of years ago. So this is sort of a heat map. It shows the areas with the highest environmental value in the brighter colors, so the reds and the oranges. And we don't need to go through all those parameters over on the right, but those are the different things that were considered in putting this together. So this area of the Loxahatchee headwaters includes these various things, wetlands and freshwater habitats, park buffering, and those sorts of things. Part of what got us so much more interested in this is, as you may know, the state park system goes through a process in developing a unit management plan for each of their parks. In fact, Atlantic Ridge is next on the agenda. It's going to happen, I think, next week or the week after that. Well, as part of that process, the state park system has to go through the analysis of what properties are near their state park that they would like to see that would enable them to manage the resources within their state park boundary. So what I've got here are the two maps out of the unit management plans. The one on the left is for the Atlantic Ridge Preserve State Park. And you see those, the state park properties as they are right now are the ones in the blue hatching. And the parcels that are within the red cross hatching are those that the state park has said they would like to have as part of their state park system. So that includes those properties that are north of Bridge Road and are within our Loxahatchee Headwaters project. The map on the right is the similar sort of optimal boundary map from the unit management plan for Jonathan Dickinson. And you see there that the properties to the west of the state park and on the south side of Bridge Road to the north are also on the state park's desirable list. This is a map out of the State Parks Florida Forever project. They have had this project called the Atlantic Ridge Ecosystem for a number of years. We have certainly been on that list, but unfortunately, we have not been able to move forward with acquisitions within this property for a number of years. To give you a little bit more detail, this is an aerial photo underlay of the system that we're talking about, with the state parks in green, and the red parcels are ones that are within the Loxalucy Headwaters area. In a picture, this is why we think that the time for this project is now. You can see that along Bridge Road on the left, the natural ecosystem is pretty much intact. You know, we've got a mosaic of wetlands and upland areas, but the basics for the system is intact ecologically. Whereas just the next exit to the south, there's the gateway into Jupiter of Indiantown Road. And you know, there are some wetland systems in there, and we can express our appreciation to Matt and the Conservation Fund for being part of preserving the portion of the wetlands that are still intact within that corridor. So this is what our goal is: to permanently protect and restore the historical water flows. You know, it is for the birds and it's the plants as well, but the wetlands provide a variety of other services for us, whether it is helping to prevent saltwater intrusion or groundwater recharge. There's a whole variety of reasons why to move forward. It's going to be a multi-year effort. We acknowledge that we're going to need federal and state dollars to make this happen. There's over $100 million worth of property if we were able to acquire it all. So we're just starting here on a multi-year effort. But the idea is to start off with those willing sellers, and if you drive down Bridge Road, you see the for sale signs along the road. Those property owners are actively interested in selling their land. We certainly want the properties to be environmentally sensitive. We want them to be restorable in their hydrology. And so we appreciate the situation Commissioner Jenkins has been in the whole flooding in Hobe Sound. And so we've met with John Mayall and others, and we believe that although this is in a slightly different watershed, it could help help the county address those hydrologic issues. We recognize that right now, with what the county owns and maintains within the Bridge Road corridor, only allows you to manage the water in that narrow corridor. And certainly, as we become successful in acquiring these parcels, we want to continue to work with the county to allow you to do hydrologic restoration to store some of that water on the property. Helping improve water quality, that's certainly part of this, both the water going north into the North Fork, the South Fork of the St. Lucie, and that water that then goes down through the county's Kitchen Creek STA and into Jonathan Dickinson. We also hope that it's going to enhance recreational opportunities. Atlantic Ridge Preserve State Park is probably one of the least visited state parks in the system, and it's just because not too many people know about it. It's difficult to get in there, and so we're hoping that this will help create better opportunities. And certainly to reduce wildlife as well. Unfortunately, as we have found as we've been going through this, that Bridge Road, because it is bisecting these natural areas, that it unfortunately is a problem for wildlife. Whether there's going to be horseback riding on the Phase 1 acquisition parcel, or it's going to wait till we acquire future tracts, that is certainly the long-term goal. That a person could walk on publicly conserved properties from Jonathan Dickinson to Atlantic Ridge Preserve State Park. A little bit about the timeline. Certainly the Guardians have been working on this for, since November of 2019. We've been working with the Treasured Lands Foundation. We engaged the Conservation Fund back in December of 2019. Our intended main launch of this whole program was in March of last year. In fact, I think several of you had been, or maybe all of you had been invited to the opening that we had hoped to do in March. Well, obviously that was not just postponed, it was just canceled because of COVID. So that certainly presented challenges to us, but we have continued to be working on this. Our outreach both to the governmental entities such as yourselves and others has certainly been delayed, but we are continuing to do that. We have started the fundraising for the initial acquisitions, and I'm pleased to announce that we have over $1.4 million that has been raised in pledges and donations towards the Phase 1 acquisitions. And certainly the long-term strategy here is part of the reason that we have not ranked high enough at the state level to receive state funding towards this project, is because we have not ranked high in the local support category, nor in the matching funds category. So the idea is once we complete these Phase 1 acquisitions, those will be offered to the state at no charge. That will increase our ranking in the category that they call bargain sale. And certainly by the fact that we have been able to raise those sorts of funds that have come in everything from $20 to very sizable contributions, it shows that there is a grassroots support for this project overall. One of the ways that we're going to need the county's assistance is certainly when we go to the Acquisition and Restoration Council, the ARC committee up in Tallahassee with DEP, is your assistance in re-ranking that Atlantic Ridge Florida Forever project. I mentioned that our outreach to the community has been set back because of COVID, but we're pleased to have received endorsements from a number of these organizations: the town of Jupiter Island, the Loxahatchee River Management Council, recognizing the potential benefits of all this to the Loxahatchee River and Kitchen Creek, the Rivers Coalition, and of course their interest is indeed the South Fork and the North Fork of the St. Lucie, the whole St. Lucie estuary system. A representative of the conservation communities is the Native Plant Society. The Audubon of Martin County has also supported it, the Friends of Jonathan Dickinson, and we have recently started reaching out to some of the gated communities as well. So the first of those that has formally endorsed this is the Hobe Sound Golf Club, but certainly there are others pending. As the chair knows, we are working with the Indian River National Estuary Program folks, and they are waiting to provide us a letter of endorsement to make sure that an action that you all hopefully will take today is in support of the project. Before we get to questions and hopefully answers, I just want to give kind of an overview of how the land conservation project in Martin County has, I won't say matured, but has evolved over the years. In a few short years, we'll be celebrating the 100th year anniversary of the establishment of Martin County. And one of the things that we have to celebrate is a long-standing history and commitment to public land conservation measures. The first and probably the most notable land conservation project was the transfer of thousands of acres of Camp Murphy into conservation as Jonathan Dickinson State Park in 1950. JD became the cornerstone in public land conservation, just as the county's comprehensive plan has become the cornerstone of growth management in Martin County for nearly 20 years. After that, a combination of private donations and joint acquisitions led to the creation of Hobe Sound National Wildlife Refuge, St. Lucie Inlet State Park, the Nature Conservancy's Blowing Rocks Preserve, and the Savannas. Beginning in the 1970s, Martin County residents really became the instigators behind additional land acquisitions. It was the Save Our Beaches campaign in the 1970s that led to the acquisition of those parcels that allow access to the beaches on Hutchinson Island. And then jump a few years after that into the 1980s. I was pleased to be part of the Lands for You program that generated over $20 million at that time for the acquisition of parklands. This was supported through a referendum by the county voters. It was through that we came to own or be partners with Sea Branch Preserve State Park and a variety of other community parks and preserve, including the Palmar wetlands, which we all continue to advocate for. We thank you, both present and former county commissioners, for your continued efforts to continue to acquire tracts in Palmar and for your service on the Palmar Governing Board. Certainly a challenging situation. It was in the 1990s that it was the voters approved the Lands for Healthy Rivers campaign, through which we raised funds for projects that benefit the St. Lucie estuary. So that was Alapata Flats, what's turned into the Wildlife Management Area, and Atlantic Ridge Preserve State Park. And when funds for acquisition of conservation lands have been hard to find, several of you have found ways to make projects happen. And we appreciate the recent acquisition with district funds of a project in Rocky Point. Unfortunately, that has not, up until now, translated to the Atlantic Ridge Preserve State Park, and we're hoping that this presentation will be sort of the kickoff of a grassroots supported effort that will engage the county and others to help us bring those properties into conservation. So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, either I or other members of the team will try to answer them.
Great. Thank you, Greg. We have a light on by Commissioner Hurd.
Yes, I certainly will support this worthy initiative. I agree with you that we need to pursue Florida Forever funding, which has been underfunded for the last decade. We need to re-rank some of the properties in Martin County. We need to make sure that the governor and that the legislature understand the importance of, once again, giving Florida Forever the $300 million a year that it should be receiving in order to continue to acquire properties in Florida. We also have a wonderful agreement in January between the state and the Army Corps of Engineers in order to expand the natural lands component of Indian River Lagoon South, which will add considerable additional land to Indian River Lagoon, which will include some of this property, and also will allow the state to take credit for some of the acquisitions that they've already completed, but they haven't been able to use. They haven't been able to add to their contributions. So that will be a huge help. And also, it's extremely important, once again, to have the federal government acquire lands in Martin County. Alapata Flats was largely acquired through federal funding. That funding has not been available to us for the last 15 years. We need to work with the USDA and other federal agencies in order to increase their funding ability. So we have lots of opportunities here, and we certainly, all we need to do is look at the photograph of Bridge Road and Indiantown Road to see how critically important it is for us right now to do everything that we can in order to increase funding at the local, federal, and state levels. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Hurd. I just wanted to add, too, before we go to Commissioner Campy, that I also serve as the chair of the Indian River Lagoon Council, as Greg mentioned earlier. And during our February 12th meeting recently at the Indian River Lagoon Council, we discussed drafting a support letter that was requested, and Indian River Lagoon Council widely supported the efforts of the Loxalucy and was favorable to creating that letter of support, just contingent on the presentation today and the support of Martin County. So there was quite an amount of support at Indian River Lagoon Council, and thank you for presenting. And Commissioner Campy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Braun, thank you. Boy, you brought your A-team with you. That's a who's who of our residents that are working on this initiative. I'd like to kick it off by making a motion that we formally endorse this initiative on behalf of Martin County. And
Second.
Thank you. And I also think that maybe you know, Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Hurd have been at this, as we all know, for a long time, and they've both been leaders helping lead Martin County in this process of acquiring very valuable lands before they, you know, are poised to be developed or somehow compromised. We are fortunate as a community, as a county, I guess, to have a lot of these very large open spaces still left. Many of them have been, you know, Commissioner Hurd mentioned Allapattah. When I first moved here, within 2 weeks of closing on my home back in 2003, the initiative was on the August ballot for half a cent, a quarter cent for park infrastructure, and a quarter cent for conservation. It was the first thing that my wife and I did as residents of Martin County, was to vote for that. And then, you know, years later, having been on the commission when a lot of those purchases were made and formalized and finalized, even along, you know, in my district, District 5, along the Martin Grade, where we were able to make that designated as a scenic highway, to once again stop the compression of development or other activities that might have damaged that. You know, so even that as an example of natural resources in our county that needed to be protected. So I know that our staff, and Chuck is here, and he used to be with us, and we've been very fortunate to have Deb Drum and Gary Roderick and Kathy Fitzpatrick and now John Mayle. Every time we lose our expert in environmental issues, I'm always nervous, like, man, what a loss for the county. And then remarkably, we find another superstar to fill in. I think part of that is because people understand, if you're in that business and that is your passion, that this is the right place to work. So with that in mind, I would also make it not a motion but a recommendation that we either brainstorm with Ms. Krista, who we are always looking to open up her purse, the county's purse, to figure out a way. I agree that one of the things that we've always been able to say as Martin County residents and a Martin County government is that we put our money where our mouths are. And other communities can go to Tallahassee and to Washington, D.C. with their hand out, but Martin County has already stepped up and put in their own funds up front. And I think, and my colleagues that have gone to Tallahassee with me and to Washington, they know that we've heard that feedback directly from decision makers, directly from people that have the checkbook, that we walk the walk when we go to Washington or Tallahassee and ask for money. So it's been a while since we've put up our own funds. I think it's important that while these properties are still available, and the advantage of having the Atlantic Ridge so close to Jonathan Dickinson, if one was in the southwest corner of the county and the other was in the northeast corner of the county, it wouldn't be so obvious. But this is very obvious. And I don't believe that you'll necessarily get every single piece, but we shouldn't not start trying. So I would request that maybe Ms. Krista work her financial magic to find some tranche of funds that can sort of, supplement what you've done remarkably well on the private side of raising funds. We can, the example that I used about the county with the higher governments, you as an organization have put your own funds up that could encourage us as the local government to try to match and to do some of those things. I think it makes perfect sense. The pictures, especially when Jeffrey Smith has taken them, they're worth 1,000 words in this case, and hopefully thousands, if not millions of dollars too. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Campy. Commissioner Jenkins.
So because the lion's share of this project is in District 3, the best district, yeah.
Nice.
I'm just gonna stroke a check. We're gonna be done with this conversation.
Jenkins Foundation.
Yeah.
God for
Well,
funds.
there's also quite a bit in Commissioner Hurd's district, so maybe we can team up. But I've had the privilege of being kept up to speed with the evolution of this effort, and come to realize this is literally one of the most important local issues and local efforts that we can do. From the beginning, and now we have to have our district funds approved by a higher power, that I would obviously be interested in and would be putting forth, once we have something tangible to buy or something tangible, I am full in on whatever I can afford out of my district funds to support this issue, because that's how important it is. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have, now if we're taking this on, is community education on informing the people on the street exactly how important this is. You know, if you want to preserve the quality of life that we have and the nature that we have, this is one of the fundamental steps we've got to take to do that. And most people don't understand how water moves and what a wetland does, and some of the man-made obstacles, i.e. Bridge Road, that have negatively impacted it. So I think, as important as this is, one of the most important things is public outreach in a form that just normal folks on the sidewalk can understand. So I am fully supportive of this, as Greg knows. Greg, I do owe you a return call for our conversation that was, by the way, you probably didn't know was interrupted. I was talking to you in my car, pulling in my driveway into my garage, and somebody followed me into my garage. So that's, something as commissioners every once in a while I have to put up with. So, and I had to get off the phone with him, and I have not had a chance.
Marry him.
Yeah, not a chance to get back to you. So I fully intend to do that when I have a moment. So.
No problem. Thank you very much for your support.
Yeah.
And with that coming from the district in which most of this property is located, we certainly appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Jenkins. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a lot has been said about how we got where we are today in Martin County, and I agree with all of it. I think what shouldn't go under-discussed, Ed touched on it a little bit, but our successes really have been both here at the state and at the federal level, with the ability to go to Tallahassee, to Washington with money in hand and challenge those that are our funding partners to match or to exceed our matches in terms of what we have been able to accomplish. And so, when I think about it, the funding that we acquired Allapattah with, Martin County put up a significant amount of money. C-44, Martin County put up a significant amount of money. Culpeper, 9 Gems, other properties down south, Martin County put up a significant amount of money. We also used some of those funds to acquire a whole bunch of beachfront up on Hutchinson Island, which I remember the resident coming to me and said, boy, the most important thing you could ever do for Martin County would buy every square inch of beachfront you can buy and don't let it be built. And we were very successful in getting, I think, close to 130 acres up on my end of the neighborhood up there. And lastly, Palomar is really one of my, and has been for years, one of my top priorities for a whole host of reasons, to put Palomar to rest and get that nonsense out of the way that's even continuing to go on today and furthering going on today. But all of this comes from, I think, the strategy that we have been so successful with is Martin County getting behind funding our portion of what it takes to go to the state and go to the federal government to be able to pull off the big things we have been able to pull off all these years. And it was mentioned that there may be $100 million worth of acquisition in this presentation alone. Palomar could easily be that kind of a number as well. And to me, as important as Loxalucy is in this presentation, Palomar is equally as important. That has been a constant threat to us for years, that somebody might come in, as they have done, and acquire large chunks of Palomar. And we have been approached multiple times about trading that off for development of some sort on one piece of it, and gee, maybe we could cut that kind of a deal, and that is a zero starter for me. So at the end of the day, I think the discussion that Ed was leading us into, I think if we are to be serious with the kind of acquisition dollars we're talking about, we're going to have to talk about a funding source that is a long-term and not a 2 or 3 year effort, because that's not going to generate the amount of revenue we need. I'm talking a 10 or 20 year effort. Counties to the north of us have done it for water and sewer. and other purposes. We have been incredibly successful with the acquisitions we have done over the years. And so I think the conversation really needs to be, and I think Harold probably complemented the conversation, is to go after a long-term funding source in Martin County. But the education side of it and the buy-in side of it will be significant, because every time we go into one of these efforts, there are distractors from the process that love to throw stones at the glass wall. And it is on, a lot said that we have acquired more than enough land in Martin County, and we don't need to acquire any more, and we spend enough money as it is. And until I think all of the parcels that we believe are significantly important to water issues, to habitat issues, to other things are acquired, we still have a lot of work to do that. So, Ed, I don't know if that was the intent of your motion, but I hope, and it would be my recommendation, that we bring back a conversation about a long-term funding source, which really is kind of obvious as to what it is, but because the dollars that we're talking about are not something that Ms. Krista is going to dig into her bag of tricks to figure out how we squeeze one more drop out of that grapefruit. That's not going to happen. And a quarter cent won't cut it. We are going to need to maximize the revenue source to do the kind of acquisitions we're talking about. And it's got to be long-term. It can't be a 2 or 3 year item and come back and redo it a couple of years from now. Because what I've also seen in the efforts I've been involved in supporting these years with doing these land acquisition projects is, once that funding source is in place, it's good to go for a long time, and people really don't necessarily think about what's being generated and how it's being generated, but it is really the only source, I think, that can generate the type of funds that we need to be able to go to the state and the federal government with and say, here's our portion, we need you to participate on your side of the equation. So I'm happy to support that idea and that conversation. And if that's what your motion is, Ed, then I'm hopeful that we can bring an agenda item back sooner than later, so that we can formulate a long-term funding strategy.
Commissioner Campy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. My first motion was simply for to kick off the process of showing our support as a county with the endorsement to join this list of others, our colleagues in Jupiter Island. I think once the county government shows a level of endorsement and support, I think if you're where it says others pending, I think that would go a long way to others pending if we stepped up. And say what you will about the 5 different personalities that sit up here. I think there are only a handful, of things that we completely agree on, and I think protecting the special, unique character of Martin County, we all agree, as I believe every resident. That's not a Republican, Democratic issue. That's not a liberal, conservative issue. That's an issue that most of us understand, and I think the only folks that don't necessarily, I hear what Commissioner Smith is saying. There are some people who have said that to us, especially whenever there's a big announcement of a land acquisition, that property's coming off the tax rolls and all these other issues, and why is the government buying this property? And I get that in certain regards. There are certain pieces of property and certain locations that we might not have necessarily need to be involved in. But most people, after being informed and educated on exactly what's at stake here, turn their opinion and understand. At least that's the experience that I have had. Now, in regards to Commissioner Smith is right. This is big money. These are large pieces of property. Quite often they're in very desirable locations for other activities other than conservation. So it's a competitive process. So you're not getting it with, and I appreciate what Commissioner Jenkins said, but and we all have a small little bucket of district funds that we use mostly at our discretion. But I appreciate it's just his nature, but it can't just be a District 3 MSTU fund issue. He can't.
Can become the Jenkins Flats if you want.
True that. I could do some naming, you know. The point being that he also needs, in my opinion, to hang on to some of his district funds to support the district. And, you know, Commissioner Hurd just recently used a tremendous amount of her funds for an opportunity that presented itself for a very short period of time, and good for her. And we all supported that. But she also has other responsibilities to use her district funds. So I think it's a broader approach than within the district. And I don't want to start just, throwing out big, lofty goals that we would throw at Miss Krista for her to either try to catch or duck. So I did just ask her a question, and it's not that we can make an announcement. I don't get to speak to, this, but people that are listening at home, we're not allowed to speak to each other outside of this meeting. We're not even allowed to say to Miss Krista, hey, I got this great idea, go tell the rest of them what this great idea is. We have no choice but to do it here. So it's not like I'm trying to spring something on my colleagues. Most of them, I would assume, will be perfectly jump on board for the starting of the conversation. But I think we need to give Miss Krista a goal. And that goal, from my perspective, would be that before I say the number, let me say this. The five of us have recently, in the last several years, put out a couple of what we thought were good initiatives for referendums to ask the taxpayers and the spenders, the consumers in Martin County, to contribute more. The last time it happened was twice for the school district, and I think people understood that. So I'm not interested in going back out to the public to say, hey, we need another quarter penny, a half penny. Not at this time. I just don't think there's an appetite for it. And to go through the exercise with all of your people and our people to ask, I've heard it loud and clear, they're not interested at this time for that, no matter what it is. But we have a large budget that we put together every single year with the money that's already in-house. And I know that Ms. Krista and all of the department heads and employees are clever in how we spend that money. But I would request that Ms. Krista, as the CIP sheets are being drawn currently, that we create a new CIP sheet, as we have for other fixed asset, FARBs and things like that, that we get back into this business that we've been out of for a while. And I asked her if she could find $1 million a year for 10 years. And she said that that's a process, and that it would have to go onto a CIP sheet. But I also, in my last comment here, Madam Chair, is this. Our county staff has a long history of taking a single dollar and turning it into $2, $3, $4, $5. I think if we put up that $1 million now, our staff, and with your help and the community's help, could turn $1 million into multi-million dollars, and now you're acquiring the property that's appropriate. Because the concept of telling people that they should not be allowed to develop their private property that they own and pay taxes on just out of the kindness of their heart is not really a fair strategy. And as a property rights person, I'm not in favor of that. The way you conserve someone's property is to purchase it. As a community, that's how. And if the community is not interested in purchasing people's private property to somehow control what the future of that property would be, then we're really not serious about it. And so this would be an example of us putting our money where our mouths are. So I would make a motion that we have... Oh, I apologize.
So are you amending your original motion?
Let's just vote on the first one.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Commissioner Smith, I know you had your light on. Does it pertain? Can you wait till it? Okay.
It'd be all right, I'd follow the motion.
Okay.
I mean, you can
Okay.
follow the motion.
Wonderful. So we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Hurd. All those in favor? Aye. The motion carries unanimously. And then Commissioner Campy, go ahead and.
I would make a motion that we bring an agenda item back requesting that Ms. Krista and her financial team look to see with a goal of $1 million per year for 10 years as a goal to give her some kind of a point. And if not that number, or if not the ability to make that happen within the 2021-2022 budget, that we at least come back and have some information on when we can get back into this business. You've sort of started it off, and we should join you in the effort. That's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy, and we have several lights on. Commissioner Smith, you were first.
Thank you. Just, again, I think from my input on this second part of the conversation, you know, it's interesting. We had a whole bunch of people come out and celebrate Allapattah 3 weeks ago or so, and it's been an enormous success, and was when we started it, and the partners we brought in was an enormous success. But at the end of the day, Martin County having money in hand to be able to go and make those deals was significantly important. C-44, again, people are celebrating the idea, and should, that finally after 20 years, our enormous water storage and STA project out in western Martin County is just about finished, and we will see the opening of that within a year, which is amazing. And I know it's taken way too long, but the fact that it is happening is amazing. But again, C-44 would not have happened without the conversation starting here with the five of us, and then going to the taxpayers and deciding whether or not that was important for the taxpayers in Martin County to see better water quality at the end of the day through the acquisition of real estate that would get us to there. And even though it took a very, very long time to get there, it was their support, it was their understanding, it was their educated knowledge of why we were doing it in the first place, that made those things happen. And so, Ed, and I'm open to certainly a broader conversation as an agenda item. I'm not supportive at this time of the way that you're suggesting, because it's not enough. And if we're going to make an effort, and if we're going to really put our best effort forward, the five of us, or certainly a majority of the five of us, I think have to do what was done in the days of Allapattah and the days of C-44 in land acquisition projects, that funding strategies that we did. And you know, it's sometimes not comfortable and so on, but with the right people sitting in the room and the right people supporting the effort, I think we can get that done. And I think we had speakers come this morning that talked about the importance of their neighborhood and backing up the Jonathan Dickinson Park, and don't connect me to the outside world. I want the wildlife I have existing the way we have it. The way you get there and the way we protect Martin County and do even more for water quality is to go acquire the land that we've all talked about. So if your motion is, I'm not supportive of the motion in the fashion that it's in. I'm supportive of Taryn bringing back a discussion that says, here are our alternatives. You know, we could somehow figure out how to put $1 million aside a year, and that gets us to here in the acquisition program. If we want to go a sales tax discussion, here's where we can go. If we want to go a bond referendum, here's where we can go. Whatever various tools we as a local government have at our ability to at least put forward, I'm more than happy to have that broader conversation. I just can't support the idea of the $1 million is not going to get us where these folks want to get, at least on this presentation, and with the other acquisitions that are certainly on the table that need to be looked at, will not get us there.
Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins.
So I agree with you that it's not enough, but it's a start. I don't think that Commissioner Campy's motion is going to stop the conversation to go further, but you got to start somewhere, and I think it is. My comments earlier about the educational portion of the challenge ahead of us is, and I probably should have alluded to this, Ms. Birdsey and I had a conversation a couple years ago. She sat me down and said, Harold, how are we going to acquire additionally environmentally sensitive lands in Martin County? And I said, Mrs. Birdsey, there is no appetite for that. The reason there's no appetite for that is because most people don't understand the importance of it. And we've got to start there before we even open the conversation up to a referendum. Because I have heard the same things of, we're taking land off the tax roll, we're doing this, we're doing that. Well, we're taking agriculturally taxed land that is mostly wetlands that have little marketable value for anything. So if people understood that, it would be a different conversation. So, and that part of this really needs to happen before, we come out and go, okay, we're going to formulate a referendum for building funds to buy environmentally sensitive lands. That has got to be the first step. And putting $1 million a year aside might get us to that point, right? So, anyway, that's just my thoughts.
Great. Commissioner Hurd.
Yes, I agree that $1 million a year is a fine start, but it's not enough. Martin County up to now has spent $75 million of taxpayer money in order to acquire lands. That's how we've leveraged these enormous purchases that we've made. We contributed $17 million for the C-44 project. We contributed $10 million for Allapattah. So it's these, we need to have, I think, an agenda item brought back to us without committing to what we're going to fund and how we're going to fund it. Let's look at alternatives so that we have choices. We need to have a more serious rather than this fly by the seat of our pants decision. It's too hasty. This is a serious conversation, and we need to take it seriously, and we need to give it a whole lot more weight and consideration before we make a decision. So I would ask that we have an agenda item brought back to consider alternatives. I agree. We need to have a funding source. I also think that the reason that the referendum failed the last time was because the commissioners failed. We didn't sell it. We didn't do a good enough job of convincing our taxpayers. Because we've been real successful in the past. It's not that the people in Martin County don't want to spend their own money in order to buy land, because they've shown us 3 times that they did. So I think it was our failure, not the community's failure. So we need to have an agenda item brought back.
I'll second Sarah's motion for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy.
No second.
With no second. And now we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Smith. And
I'll alter my motion.
Now,
You didn't make a substitute motion, did you? I'll alter mine. We're not on 2 different pages. I can alter my
If we
motion.
get to the same place, I'm perfectly happy.
You would call it Commissioner Smith's was a substitute motion, but if you
Commissioner
want.
Hurd made a motion.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Hurd with Commissioner Smith. So Commissioner Campy's motion.
If you withdraw your motion, if you're.
I have my light on. I just wanted to further explain.
Okay.
Go ahead. Commissioner Campy.
Thank you, ma'am. I basically achieved what my goal was, which was to start the conversation. I tried to think in my head a number that was legitimate, but obviously not enough when you're talking about, which was my comments, if you're talking about, hundreds and hundreds of acres, $1 million a year is not enough. But it's a starting point. It's like put your money where your mouth is. Commissioner Hurd and Commissioner Smith have been here for a long, long time, and I don't think that that the public failed in our last referendum option. The public rejected what we were selling, and I think some of it could be that, as Commissioner Hurd suggests, that we didn't do a good enough job. But I think part of it is the difference in some of those previous referendums that were successful is they were pre the 2008-9 Great Recession. I think a lot of people, that was a financial wake-up call for lots of people, including myself and many friends of mine, that money wasn't as easy, that the jobs weren't. Some of the history of those referendums coincided with the tech bubble and the huge advantage that, during the Clinton administration, those 90s when there was tons of money around and people like, half a cent, 6 cents, 6.5 cents, fine. But a lot of people had a financial wake-up call that they haven't forgotten. Many of us that were young adults in 15 years ago are now still reeling, and now you got a pandemic. I don't know if the community has an appetite, whether you brought in marketing geniuses to sell it. My point is that it's a starting point. I do not disagree with Commissioner Hurd or Smith that I didn't say find $1 million. That wasn't my motion. It was the next agenda item with some parameters. $1 million is a starting point. It's definitely not the goal line, but I'll take the $1 million out of it to make my commission colleagues feel more comfortable about just having Ms. Krista and our team bring forward an agenda item based on what you've presented this morning. The other thing would be this. If we allowed children to vote, remember Save Our Beaches was high school kids started that whole program. And if we allowed children to vote, I think it would pass. But that being said, I think we should also bring back the Land Acquisition Selection Committee that had been sunsetted several years ago as another part of this conversation of, once you have the money, the next question is which pieces do you buy first and who's out negotiating them? Thank you. So that would be my motion, just for an agenda item.
Okay, we have a motion for an agenda item now by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Smith.
Yes. Okay. I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I don't care who makes it.
So, all right. I just wanted to add, and along the lines of Commissioner Jenkins, and we've had a number of conversations, Greg and Tony, and some presentations at Indian River Lagoon Council. And as you mentioned in your presentation, you had just really gotten started in this effort, and you were ready for the launch, and then COVID. So you have done a tremendous job of building your support and momentum in a sort of insurmountable time. And I think that gives credit to you and shows the grassroots effort that's behind you. So I commend you. And that's due to public outreach, I think, and education at its best. If you were able to do that in 2020 and do your capital fundraising, then in the following years, I think that there's a huge opportunity to continue to educate and do the public outreach. And I agree with Commissioner Jenkins that that's one of the most important components is to have an understanding. Particularly there are new people moving to Florida and to Martin County all the time. And I do believe that there's a disconnect of understanding how we're all connected, as far as our watershed. So it's an important effort. And I think, certainly anything that we do at looking at funding should also include a component of how we're going to educate and communicate and do public outreach with our residents. And we have a motion on the floor. Commissioner Smith, did you have something to add to that? Go ahead. And then we will take a vote on the motion.
It's rare, if not almost never, that Sarah and I agree on something. But one thing is for sure, on this front, Sarah and I, regardless of where we come from on our opinions about a lot of other things, both she and I worked super hard through all these years to find a way to get these things done. Which we have been ridiculously successful in doing. And this is just the next chapter. It's the continuation of the effort of 30 or 40 years of Martin County history, as Greg pointed out, that have gotten us to where we are today. When you think about what the five of us have the opportunity to set out as an opportunity for the community to decide whether or not this is what they want to do for their future, it's an amazing opportunity for the five of us to say we want to do this because it's the cool thing to do. I think the opportunity, and to the guardians that are with us and others, we cannot, as county, thanks to the legislature, we cannot go out and promote the strategy. We're not allowed to do that. We can educate, but we can't promote. We can't fund a campaign, which is what it will take to pass something like this. But you all can. And so I think the relationship between the two of us on this is the five of us have an obligation, I think from my perspective, I think from Sarah's perspective in the motion, to put something forward as a long-term funding strategy. That's our piece of this. Your piece of this is to help us fund, if we get that far, and we get 3 votes at least, to move an effort forward, is to help us fund the education and the outreach and the campaign, because that's what it will take. That's why the last one failed. We didn't have the buy-in from the community. We didn't have the fundraising out there to run a viable campaign that would get it passed. It would have passed. There were plenty of good things in there to have done. And I've done enough campaigns in my life to know how they work and understand how you get them done. It takes financial commitment and it takes a campaign. You gotta run a campaign to get it done. And so I think this is a partnership. The government side of this is for the five of us to decide whether or not a referendum is the way to go, and how long that referendum should be, and at what value that should be at the end of the day. You're part of the equation, and I hope it's the partnership that we do together is to help us fund a campaign, because that will make it successful. And that will be a 10 or a 20-year program that will set us even further apart from other communities that haven't chosen to go this route. So I think it's one of the coolest things this board can do, by far. I think the work we've done in my 20 years is super cool. I'm super proud of what we've accomplished. This is just the next chapter. And so, Sarah, thank you for the motion. I appreciate it. And I think we're headed off in a really interesting opportunity.
Okay, great, thank you. And we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Conzi.
I may take the liberty of putting a few final words on this discussion on behalf of all of my colleagues who came here with the expectation and the hope, indeed, that we would get an endorsement. I could not tell you how gratified and thankful we are for what you have all been discussing and how this approach from our perspective is perfect. So let's keep working together. Partnership is the key word. The future of Martin County is at risk, but it's also what we all love and cherish. And so what you're doing is going to be terrific as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for presenting today. With that, we are just past time for our 10:30 break, so we are going to take a break and come back in 10 minutes at 11:15.
live?
Okay, you're on.
Okay, welcome back. We have just finished our closed captioning break, and we have rejoined for the March 9th Board of County Commissioners meeting, and we are going to take up board and committee appointments. Number one, Construction Industry Licensing Board appointments, presented by Donna Gordon.
I thought you were going to say like by Home Depot.
What are you waiting on, Donna? Mr. Smith? Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that.
Really?
It's only got to be me?
He's new. You gotta cut the guy some slack. He's still on probation.
You even have a little red indicator on here.
Boom. And heavy. Madam Chair.
Donna Gordon, Administration. For the Construction Industry Licensing Board, I'd like for you to appoint 2 people due to a term expiring and 1 person resigning. And during the course of review of this item, Ms. Krista Story discovered that the numerous changes in the consumer representative position over the past few years, one held by Ms. Okowski, and the third consumer representative, which is Corey Weiner, are not consistent with the requirements of the section that created this board to have staggered terms and for the terms to begin on November 30th. So she rectified this by the resolution is to appoint 1 consumer representative to a term begin immediately and in November 29 of this year, and another to begin March 24 of this year and end November 29 of 2022, and by extending the term of Corey Weiner to November 29 of 2023. And the people that received the most votes were Mr. Steve Fry received 4 votes, Ms. Charlene Okowski received 4 votes, and I would recommend that Ms. Okowski's term end in 2022 and Mr. Fry's 2021.
Move that.
Well, plus Mr. Weiner's to extend his term. That what you meant?
Does that accomplish what you were doing by staggering the terms? I would move that order that you just gave us approval.
Okay, we have a motion. Yes.
Question, Ms. Gordon, question. You said one of the terms would end in 2021,
Yes.
in November 29th of 2021?
Yes.
So that person would then have to potentially reapply? And then it would be back into the, so it's not like a person's going to have a term for 7 months and be, the position will open, I understand, but the position will open up again.
Yes.
It's not a 7-month term?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith.
Second.
We have seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we have board and committee appointments. Item number 2, Animal Care and Control Oversight Board appointment.
This is one because a term is expiring. The term would begin March 28 of this year, expire March 27 of 2025, and Dr. Richard Smith received 4 votes.
I just wanted to insert some commentary here. I'd like to vote for both of them because they're so well qualified. I noticed that both of them graduated from Purdue Veterinary School.
Oh.
What a coincidence. Move approval of Dr. Smith.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to public hearing number 1, public hearing and final assessment resolution for the Hideaway Isles Water Main Municipal Service Benefit Unit. Presented by Sam Emerson and Phil Keithley. Before you start, you were correct. We had Miss Woods, you might want to advise, we had, can you repeat, your name is Okay, so, she has a public comment form, and now I see here it's written B and C number 1. The board and committee appointments. Even though we voted, can we go ahead and take that public comment? Okay. Go ahead, step up to the microphone.
On that item, because I'm one of the people that I wanted to ask you for your endorsement. And I wanted to be here and give you the opportunity of asking me questions about why I wanted to be on that board and what my qualifications were. And I'm a little bit surprised that I didn't get that opportunity.
Well, I apologize. That was my error, that your form, they had written board and committee appointments. We would not have been able to ask questions, but please, we would like to offer you the public comment period of 3 minutes. And I apologize that I did not see that it had written on that agenda item.
Yes, I did specifically ask to speak on that agenda item. I am a citizen of the county, and I have been attempting, and I have applied for probably at least 3 or 4 positions for different committees and advisory districts. But unfortunately, because of where I live, a lot of the districts don't include my area. So therefore, and that's understandable. I get that you have to have a buy-in and a reason to be on some of the different committees. But I am very interested in getting involved and contributing and volunteering on something. And this was one of the few committees that I qualified for. So, and I do have a lot of good information, if you want to put it that way, that I think I could contribute or could have contributed to that particular committee. So I have actually sent your offices emails at different points in time asking for your support. I do live in Jupiter Hills. I have been involved in community service for most of my life, and I don't know what is going to be available. I know that there is a public process to take place, but I do hope that you will keep me in mind if there is something where I can volunteer and contribute. And I will qualify that I would not be interested in doing anything that I don't feel I have a background, experience, or the ability of contributing. So, again, my name is Geraldine Janko Dubé. I go by Gigi, and I'm available. Thanks.
Thank you, and I would say be careful what you wish for, because when you offer your time, talent, or treasure, I am pretty certain that you're going to have a lot on your plate. So I appreciate that, and I apologize that I didn't see this item. And Commissioner Smith, yes.
Mr. Bay, one thing I would offer you to do, and you're more than happy to call my office. If people ask, we get amazing people that volunteer or apply for our different committees and boards that we appoint. By all means, call and make an appointment to come meet with me and talk. I would advise anybody that wants to be on a committee that we don't know, and I apologize, I don't know you personally, but the best way is not necessarily to come here and do that, but is to literally call our offices and make an appointment to come meet with us and talk to us about what you do want to do, so that next time when you pop up on one of our advisory lists, at least we will have known you or have understood what you want to do and what you want to participate in. Because as you well know, I'm sure at this point, we have a very broad level of committees and things to do. And I'd certainly love to talk to you and find out what you want to do so that we can try to find the right place for you if that's what's of interest.
That's it, ma'am.
All right, hold light.
In And I did have some reluctance to push forward with impersonal requests because of COVID, and I kind of thought that there was probably a lot of arm's length situations, so that's why I
shortcome
did
that,
most
I'm
of
more than happy if
my
you call my
pre-work with the
Ma'am,
your
thank you.
assistance and email.
Thank you, ma'am.
You know, things are just different nowadays, and I'm not
They are.
certain sometimes how to handle it.
If you call my office, I'm more than happy to talk to you on the phone if you don't want to do it in person.
Okay, that's fine. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your willingness. Okay. We are moving on now to public hearing number 1, public hearing and final assessment resolution for the Hideaway Isles Water Main Municipal Service. Mr. Keithley.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, Phil Keithley, Chief Project Manager for the Utilities and Solid Waste Department. Martin County Utilities received a petition from Hideaway Isles residents asking the Utilities Department to ballot the area provision of water service to 72 properties that do not have availability of water service. After completion of construction drawings and cost proposals received from our annual underground contractors, a staff-level workshop was held on March 2nd at these commission chambers to explain the project scope, the associated costs, and the assessment process. Based on the ballots received to date and verified by the Supervisor of Elections, there are 50 properties for the project, 19 against, and 3 that did not vote. A Florida Department of Environmental Protection permit to construct has been received by this department, and the lowest cost proposal has been selected from Martin County's annual underground construction contractors. Some of the obvious anticipated benefits for the community would be enhanced water quality, as some of the existing private water wells are high in iron and sulfides. It would ensure a reliable supply of water, as well as continuous supply during power outages. And because we will be installing fire hydrants along with the water supply system, a potential for the homeowners to recognize a reduction in homeowner insurance rates. The proposed assessment includes 72 properties at 72 ERCs. As indicated on this slide, the total project cost is $536,959. Therefore, that sum is divided by 72 equivalent residential connections for an estimated prepayment amount of $7,458 per connection, and that equates to an annual payment of $636.08 per unit, amortized over a 15-year period at a rate of 2% interest plus 8.75% in annual fees. Martin County Utilities serves approximately 37,000 water customers, and the average residential customer uses approximately 6,000 gallons per month at a rate of $2.31 per 1,000 gallons. Based on that average water consumption, inclusive of a base charge of $18.03, the average residential water customer pays approximately $31.89 per month. With the approval of the final assessment resolution today, the department anticipates commencing construction in April 2021 and estimates a 4-month construction phase with completion in August of 2021. Lump sum payments of the assessment by property owners would be due by August 1st of 2021, and any payments not received by that date would be shown on the annual property tax bill. Therefore, staff recommends that the board adopt the final assessment resolution to create the Hideaway Isles Water Main Municipal Service Benefit Unit, and staff recommends that the board award the construction contract to Underground Construction Management Incorporated in the amount of $659,000. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Commissioner Hearn.
Are our rates consistent throughout the year?
Our rates are adjusted based upon board direction. They are adjusted by indexing every year until 2025.
Okay, so my question is, are the rates the same every month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Campy, and Commissioner Smith, you have your lights on.
Phil, just a quick question. Is there anybody else in that whole, between Map Road and, if you were to use Murphy Road, Map Road is sort of like that box, is there anybody else in there that doesn't have water and sewer?
There would be, between Murphy Road and Map, there would be, the area that I'm thinking of is all on canals. I can't think of, or Rustic Hills, but it's all private roadways. So every property owner would have to grant utility easements for us to construct any assets within that community.
Okay, not for today, but can you come chat to me, or can we talk about just the discussion later on at some point?
Oh, absolutely.
Because, what's unfortunate is that we're going to go in and do this neighborhood, which means we're going to mobilize a whole bunch of stuff to make that happen, and we're going to miss a whole bunch of stuff because of other things that might be problematic. And I'd just love to talk about how we get around or through that somehow.
Most certainly.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. You don't have an additional light, do you?
No.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we're going to take public hearing number 2, Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Program presentation by Mr. George Stokas. The forgotten one.
He's unforgettable.
Unforgettable. Good morning, Madam Chair. George Stokas, Assistant County Administrator for Martin County. We are here today to have a public hearing in regards to the Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Program. The United States United States Congress and President passed the CARES Act earlier in 2020. And as a part of that, the Community Development Block Grant Program allowed for funds for public improvements to facilities to benefit residents that had been negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a part of that, staff has realized that especially in the retail, personal services, hospitality, and restaurateur, employees have been immensely impacted at the loss of business or fluctuation of businesses. As a result of that, staff was directed and looked at ways to improve our situation with coronavirus. One of those recommendations from staff is to apply for a Community of Development Block Grant program with the following overall objectives. And I don't want to read the whole slides, but the number one item is to upskill existing workforce from the restaurant, retail, and hospitality employment so that we can be put into a more economically stable industry. We also plan to target underserved communities such as Golden Gate, East Stewart, Indiantown, in those folks into jobs that exist and currently thrive in Martin County. Our Business Development Board, I believe, calls them hubs of excellence, and I believe they're going to ask to have some public comment as well. We also are looking to create this facility to act really as a starting point for people who may be entering into a vocational trade or license program. This facility cannot be everything to everyone, but it can be the first step to a long and valuable career here in Martin County. And we believe that this type of facility, which we call a workforce learning center, can be that first jumping off point. The facility will also and can act as a facility that can educate and enrich existing employees at the county through continuing education units. And I did make a mistake. It's not additional licensing, but additional certifications. You really can't get your forklift license at a place like this, but it's the beginning point of how to be a better manager, how to have the soft skills in job interviews, and to be kind of a collection point of where you would meet Career Source of Florida and the Business Development Board and other employers, as well as Indian River State College. So with that, the proposed location is Building 17. This location was picked because it's centrally located between East Stewart and Golden Gate. It's also a building the county currently owns. It is vacant. It is temporarily being used to train firemen. The airport had expended monies to do a refurbishment study, so the numbers that we're giving you are relatively accurate within about a year of when we've analyzed it. And the building sits pretty much vacant. So that's why staff picked it. It's in the middle of a location. It's in a really well-lit area. For parking lot, has adequate parking. And it is in one of the hubs of excellence of aviation in the county. There's been a lot of questions as to the roles and responsibilities. Trying to outline them here, the county is really, the role is to provide the facility, the bricks and mortar, the roof. Staff has been in discussion with Indian River State College to staff the facility as well as help and assist in educating the workforce. With that being said, there are many other entities that we've started collaborating with, some of those being Career Source of Florida, the Martin County School District, and others. Just those last two bullets there is quite a bit of conversation. I know there's quite a bit of interest from the school district. Again, this is about honing where do we start. And then finally, the business community, they obviously will need to demonstrate demand, send employees, and hire new candidates as they enter into the workforce or transition from one end of the workforce to the next. And finally, you really can't look at anything unless you look at financial commitments. So the capital request here is a $1.4 million. Again, that was based on an engineering estimate package in April 18th of 2019, which is attached to the board item, as well as how are we going to maintain or operate the facility. And staff is currently in the process of negotiating with Indian River State College as well as Career Source of Florida as to who pays to keep the lights on, the air conditioning going. And that will be coming back to you as a future board item if and when we were to actually receive the grant. So there has not been any commitments made by any of the educative folks. However, that is in the discussion. And with that, we're asking that the recommended action is that you would receive this public comment and propose use of CDBG CV funds, as well as accept any public comment. And I believe in the supplemental, I also have to mention that we have done the 4 points, the 4-point questionnaire that is required by CDBG. And with that, Madam Chair, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, comments, or concerns from you or the public.
Okay, wonderful. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, how do you quantify that the facility must meet a 51 attendance benefit to low and moderate income individuals?
Thank you for asking that. So the way that we quantify that is by working with not-for-profit partners in Indian River State College who will market directly to those communities and create programs that will put that percentage of number of folks into those seats. So it's not just putting on an advertisement and anyone shows up. It's going into the communities like Golden Gate and East Stewart and getting those folks interested in attending that facility. But I also want to mention that in my discussions with HUD, there is a provision we believe that allows that to be a non-factor when it comes to workforce development. So we've asked that question of the agency to see if that would be waived. However, that would still be, I think, a laudable goal for this facility is to try and attract those folks in those communities to go to this facility.
So there really isn't a requirement that we must meet a 51% attendance benefit to low and moderate income as a goal?
Staff's impression based on my conversation with HUD last week was that HUD waives that goal. However, I can't sit here and confirm that today, but I think from the facility that should be the county's goal regardless, is we should be attracting those LMI individuals to get into a better career path. But I would be more than happy to let you know what HUD's response is. I was hoping to have it by today, but they have not gotten back to me on that.
What's the immediate threat to health and welfare of the community?
It would be addressing those individuals that are underemployed, underskilled, and are in the restaurant, retail, or hospitality industry that is currently having issues.
And what's the need created by the COVID-19 pandemic?
The coronavirus or COVID-19 has drastically impacted the hospitality, restaurateur, and service industries as well as retail here in Martin County. I can't quantify the total amount yet. I'm waiting for the economic impact study to be completed by our consultant that this body commissioned us to do. But in my discussions with Narissa Okoye, Clearly, in our hotel industry, various factors, they're either at 50% occupancy or 75% unoccupancy. And we've had some major employers that have had to lay off or reduce hours. And the intent would be those individuals could be upskilled into industries such as marine, aviation, trades, that would meet or fit what they actually can get into, where we have a demand for folks to actually get hired into and upskill their employment.
And who's going to make the determination about what vocational programs are going to be offered?
Initially, I believe that will be the intent will be a collaboration between CareerSource Florida, Indian River State College, and your economic development team at the county, which is myself and some others, as well as probably input from the Business Development Board.
How about the school district?
Absolutely, I forgot to mention them. We will need to talk to them, but they're interested in doing their academies. We don't want a whole lot of overlap, and I think that with the limitations are both physically, with the building being only about 8,000 square feet, financially in the sense of what type of equipment you would want to buy as the operator, as well as kind of philosophically, what does the school board want to grow in their academies? What does IRSC want to grow at their Chastain campus? And then from the private sector, what is it that the real demand or need is out there? So,
how is this different from the business incubator program that was launched 18 years ago and failed?
I don't know, Commissioner. My understanding of the business incubator is you're trying to take individuals, and it's more of like an entrepreneurial center. And I'm sure there's folks here who probably know better than I do. Where I believe this facility is, where the value in this facility is it's the first step to, you're coming in, you're talking with IRSC, you're talking with CareerSource Florida. They perhaps, do a Briggs Myers or doing an assessment on the individual and to help place them into the trades. There's no creation of business. It's more of it's been explained, the way I've explained to some folks in the public, it's almost kind of like a placement agency in the old days, where you walked in and you said, hey, I got these type of talents, and an individual says, okay, well, based on your talents, we're going to put you in as an administrative person because you type well. But I'm more than happy to come back as we're addressing this, to come with a more refined outlook as to the exact nature of this facility.
I think it's a worthy goal. I mean, obviously it sounds really good, but it's $1.4 million. It's a lot of money, and I don't know how we're going to be able to track success. I don't think that we have any mechanism for tracking success. I don't think we have any method for figuring out what kind of programs we're going to offer. It just seems pretty, a feel-good idea that has very, very little follow-through.
The grant does require us to track when the individual comes in and where they're placed. So that is the one area that, as the county, we can track. I think the Business Development Board could probably better expand on what the industry and private demand need is. I think they're probably in a better position to do that. But I clearly see your concerns as to what we need to look at on that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Campy.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Stokas, thank you. When I read the agenda item, obviously the agenda items are meant to be sometimes very detailed, and other times, if it's early in a process that we're trying for the first time, it won't be chock full of the details as they're being ironed out. It also wouldn't have, pages and pages of details, based on the fact that if it doesn't have success on a vote today, there's not a lot of reason to take a tremendous amount of legwork up front. I see this as a win for several reasons. One, I think that the pandemic changed everything. It sort of put everything on fast forward. People that were in industries that were struggling, people that were in jobs that were potentially going to disappear, whether there was a pandemic or not. Some people 35 years ago, 40 years ago, in the beginning of their careers, like you said, might have gone into industries that were either technical or administrative type jobs that just have run their lifespan out as an industry. When the pandemic hit and all of this money started to flood down from Washington, D.C., and I commend you again, you and the team that put together with the money that we received here and doled it out in such a way that not-for-profits were helped, other charitable organizations that were supporting our members of the community. But the difference between what you're asking for today as to use these funds versus grants, I sit on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and they do fantastic work there as well. But a lot of times on the list of monies that they have available to them, they were talking about foreclosure avoidance, rent assistance, utility assistance. That's helpful for the time frame of when the money's going to pay something off. It doesn't give anybody a long-term solution. It's just a temporary financial assistance. It goes back an expression that I use quite often. If I give a person, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for one day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. This is an example of where we're teaching people how to fish. We're not handing out fish. And so I think that in regards to the school district, that's exactly what they've been doing all along with the technical academies. I've been a big fan of those. I've had children and family friends whose children have been part of that as well. And how the district laid out that at South Fork there's certain programs, and at Martin County there's others, and at Jensen there's others, I think is remarkable, because not everyone, we all know, not everyone is going off to college, and that's not the vision of what success is. There are plenty of successful students that never stepped foot in college. As a matter of fact, there's a large push now of very, very smart students that are also passing college in efforts for more technical and vocational skills that they know will translate into paychecks and financial stability. The school district's focus, rightfully so, is on students and young people. This, to me, is an academy for adults. And I also think it's important that as the district tries to encourage and enhance their academy programs, that those kids don't hear from their parents and friends and coworkers that they're out of work in the industries that we're talking about. So I think this is important, and I would see it as complementary. My only question, there was a couple of emails that we received, and one would be having it located at the airport, which I believe is centrally located for the most part. The MARTY system, the public transportation system, there's a route that goes past that area, correct?
I believe so. Staff's primary reason for picking that location was you already own the building.
Correct.
It would not, if you were to go out and try and acquire a building, it's, first of all, you got to find the building, and it's not cheap to buy the building.
I understand. My only concern is, and I agree, because if you bought a building somewhere else, you still have to ask the question, is this accessible to the public transportation? Because some of the people, one more point, some of the people that are struggling and would really utilize this system might have already given up the car or don't have the ability to have a car. So I'd like to see that at least our MARTY system would, and from a MARTY point of view, it's another opportunity for people to use MARTY to get them to this facility. I make a motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Great. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy and seconded by Commissioner Smith. I would just,
We have public
public hearing, yes. Yeah,
Yeah, she's getting
I'm going to add my, in addition, I agree with Commissioner Campy's comments as far as the need for the adult vocational training and the career training programs right now, which one of my kids participate in at the school district, is really a phenomenal program. And I do think this is centrally located to, in addition, Golden Gate, pedestrian, bicycle, Stewart, it's very centrally located as far as access to the community. And we have a couple public comments. If you have not filled out a speaker form, then go ahead and fill out one. But we're going to take, the first speaker will be Ted Astolfi, followed by Joan Goodrich, followed by Joe Flanagan.
Thank you. I'm Ted Astolfi. I'm the CEO of the Economic Council of Martin County. I'm here to support this grant application. Having worked with George on this issue for a couple of years now, the idea was where's the best location, how do we fund it, and then who's going to operate it. And one of the positives, I guess, of COVID is there are now grant funds available to help rehabilitate an existing facility for the county that's been sitting vacant and underutilized for many, many years in a really central location. So I know there's some details about the operation of it, but first things first, let's get the money so we can move forward on the building, and then we can work out the details of the operation and the programming following that. I'm very supportive of working with CareerSource, the Business Development Board, Indian River State College. I think that complementing the CTE programs at the school district, so it's a flow from the school district into this program, into job training, to do continuing education training, and then helping those people that need to be upskilled in our community to get those next jobs that have been affected by COVID makes perfect sense. One of the problems, Commissioner Hurd, to your issue of tracking is when kids graduate high school and they walk across that stage and get their degree, they disappear. There is no tracking. There's prohibitions against tracking them by their social security numbers. You can't do that. They just kind of disappear. By working with CareerSource and with employers and with the college, we will have better opportunities to track where these graduates of these programs go and be able to judge that success. And also, if you all can work out the deal with Indian River State College, Indian River State College is an institution that deals with low to moderate income students. That's a majority of the students currently. So that's a good fit for meeting the requirements of this grant as well. So I think George did a really good job of putting all those pieces together to make this successful. So I'm here just to encourage you to move forward with this grant request, or request to apply for the grant, and see if we can develop out the details as we move forward. So any help we can offer, we're here to stand to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is Joan Goodrich.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Joan Goodrich, Executive Director of the Business Development Board of Martin County, also here to support your CDBG application for grant funds to rehab Building 17 at Whittam Field for a new learning center. As has already been mentioned, the pandemic has unfortunately accelerated the displacement of our lower skilled workers in our community. At the same time, local businesses are unable to grow because they haven't been able to find the skilled workers that they need to fill their unfilled jobs. And every day, nearly 60% of our workers who live in Martin County actually leave Martin County to go work somewhere else. So it's been quite a conundrum and challenge. While investing in Building 17 as a new learning center and growing the number of in-area education programs will provide our local residents looking for better jobs and careers with new skills, we're able to strengthen our local economy, keep our businesses growing, and employing those that are here. We recently had a small business in our Business Accelerator program, one from one of our hubs of excellence, our marine industry. The small business said that he would actually has enough work to grow his business, but he's looking for 5 or 6 great local people. So, somebody that went to a learning center like this at Whittam Field could possibly have those really good paying jobs. They were about $50,000. So making that match, having another connection point in our community is really, really important. So can help close that gap between the good job opportunities our businesses are looking to provide with those that are looking for their great next career. The investment also gives us a leg up on those communities that we compete with for talent and businesses, and it would demonstrate that Martin County cares and that growing our own is really part and central to our successful economic development strategy. So I thank you and your team led by George for your vision on this county building that's been vacant for a while. Could really, add that impact or that push that we need at this particular point in the pandemic, and I believe the use of the CDBG funds is most appropriate and greatly needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. And our next public speaker will be Joe Flanagan.
Hi, Joe Flanagan. I'm excited about this opportunity because I've been working for about the last 18 months with anybody that has anything to do with the trades, whether it's the school district. I had a wonderful meeting with Dr. Millay, the superintendent of schools, matter of fact, last week, and he assured me that it's moving forward. I have a phrase that's called the dirty hands trades, because if you look at a lot of the CTE programs that are at the high schools, and I know they get offended when I say it this way, but a lot of those are college prep. You start out at an entry level, and then you finish the high school program, you go in. But we've got the construction at South Fork, we've got automotive body and automotive mechanics at Martin County High School, and Dr. Millay was talking about moving forward. Mr. Stokes said in the beginning, this is not going to be a one-size-fits-all. This is not going to meet the needs of everyone. But I also would go back to the statements that y'all were making during the land acquisition. It's not enough, but it's a start. So this is that first start that we really need. I'm also aware the city of Stewart is just put in for a grant application for an area just outside of East Stewart with the intent of doing something in the vocational area. So, you know, is it a duplications of services? I don't think so. There's not enough of it in there. We have Project Lift. Bob Zacchio has a phenomenal program over there. He does things. I know the Boys and Girls Club are working in that same direction. We've got to have that because, as it was said earlier, not every kid in Martin County is going to college. You know, there's about 25% of those kids that wake up the morning after graduating from high school and go, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And so we're in the process of doing this. So this will be that first start. It'll be a great investment. And I hope we are put in a position where we have to invest more money to expand it because it is such a needed thing. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to offer public comment on this item? Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We are going to move on to public hearing quasi judicial number 1. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Wait, we have public hearing number 3. So public hearing on proposed TRICO settlement for Allison Watson I'll let you announce that. You go ahead and announce the item.
This is the last one we're going to do before lunch.
I'm gonna take Michael Dooley. I'm gonna take Trade Winds.
After this.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Matthew Graham, HR Risk Management Director, for the record. Commissioners, I'm here before you today for a public hearing on a proposed TRICO settlement for Allison Watson versus Papa Sierra, doing business as Pirates Cove Resort and Marina, and Martin County Board of County Commissioners. The facts of the case are Ms. Watson was stepping off the end of the boardwalk at Pirates Cove Resort and Marina, and the concrete slab was significantly depressed. And Ms. Watson tripped and fell, sustained injuries, and filed a personal injury lawsuit against Papa Sierra and Martin County. So there was a global settlement in the amount of $200,000 reached between both parties, with TRICO paying $100,000 on behalf of Martin County, and Papa Sierra, doing business as Pirates Cove Resort and Marina, paying $100,000 as well. A public hearing on this proposed settlement is required by the procedure for TRICO settlements adopted by the board. Any proposed settlement of a TRICO case involving an amount in excess of $5,000 must be considered at a public hearing prior to TRICO and the county finalizing the settlement. The settlement is fully funded by TRICO. Our attorney, Gary Dundas, was assigned as counsel for this case and represented the county during the settlement discussions. It is the recommendation of our attorney as well as TRICO that this settlement is in the best interest of the county. This concludes my presentation for today. I'm here for any public comment or questions, and there's no vote required for this hearing.
Okay. Is there anybody wishing to make public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, that comes back to the board.
There's nothing. It's just we accept it.
Oh, there's no vote required for this one. Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Message received.
Okay, moving on to public hearing, quasi-judicial number 1, Trade Winds of Hobe Sound, request for major final site plan approval, presented by Peter Walden.
Morning.
Morning.
Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Peter Walden with the Growth Management Department. I'd like to start by submitting the agenda item with the staff report and a copy of my work history in evidence as Exhibit 1.
Oh, this is quasi-judicial.
Oh, thank you.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
Yeah, we are. All right, this is a quasi-judicial procedure, and I will take ex parte disclosures by commissioners. Commissioner Jenkins.
I have them and they've been filed.
Commissioner Smith.
I do, and they're filed.
Commissioner Campy.
I have not had any recently in the last year. If I had, they've been filed, but I come into this with an open mind.
Commissioner Hurd.
If I have any, they've been filed.
If I have any, they've been filed. And does the applicant have return receipts?
No, they returned in at the LPA.
Okay. Any interveners? Okay. We'll have swearing in of the witnesses.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Okay. And staff's presentation.
Once again, thank you, Madam Chair. Peter Walden with the Growth Management Department. And this is a request by Laurel Lane Holdings, LLC. Request major final site plan approval for a 177-unit multifamily project on an undeveloped approximate 12.8 acre parcel located between Southeast Federal Highway and Southeast Dixie Highway, about 1 mile south of Southeast Osprey Street in Hope Sound. Included is a request for a certificate of public facilities reservation. I'm sorry. The zoning district designation for the property is RM10, High Density Residential District, with a future land use of high density. The RM10 zoning district permits multifamily residential development up to 10 units per acre. However, Comprehensive Plan Policy 413A7(5) allows a maximum of 15 units per acre, contingent on the commitment to provide affordable housing to supply as defined in Chapter 2 of the Comprehensive Plan. The applicant has committed to supply 49 of the residential units as affordable housing. The units per acre on the property would be 128, but with the commitment to affordable housing, the unit total has proposed at 177, with the resulting residential density of 13.81 units per acre. The project will provide additional open road access from Southeast Federal Highway to Southeast Dixie by improving and opening an existing platted right-of-way bordering the south of the property. Proposed preserve areas contain rare and unique habitat that account for approximately 25% of the development. This area will be protected as part of a preserve area management plan. Stormwater management is proposed via on-site dry detention areas and exfiltration trenches. And proposed amenities for the development include a clubhouse, gym, swimming pool, and dog park. This matter was heard before the local planning agency on February 18th, and the LPA voted 4-0, recommending approval. And Development Review staff has reviewed the application and finds it in compliance with the applicable regulations. There are no unresolved land use, zoning, or procedural requirements associated with the application. Therefore, staff moves that the board receive and file the agenda item and all its attachments, including the staff report, as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the final site plan and preserve area management plan, or PAMP, for trade winds at Hope Sound, and adopt the resolution of approval, including the requirement that commencing with the date of initial occupancy, 49 units of the dwelling units shall at all times remain as affordable housing units. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walden. We have a light on by Commissioner Hurd.
I'm sorry, there is another resolution. Sorry, I'm going to have to find that. In the supplemental memo. Apologize.
We just passed it.
Sorry, Crystal, you want to weigh in on that? I thought, is this? Looking. This is the other resolution. Okay. Is there something other that you want me to ask this one right here?
Thank you.
Mr.
I'm sorry for that little bit of gap here in the presentation. So, in order to implement what has been proposed to you in the development order regarding the affordable housing component of the matter, the development order provides that there will be a process for confirming that the affordable housing units, as contemplated in the comprehensive plan, will remain as affordable housing units throughout the life of the project. And in that regard, the applicant will be submitting to the Community Services Department in the applications to confirm income eligibility prior to the rental occurring, and also there's an obligation for filing an annual report. The resolution, the additional resolution that is attached, establishes a fee for that service. This is the fee was proposed in consultation with that department based on the hourly rate and the expected time frame for implementing it. That department already does some of this work related to other existing, I believe, in the Indiantown area. The name of that entity is slipping my mind at the moment, but they do have experience with that. So if the board is amenable to approving the development order, which contains this requirement, this resolution would establish the fee and accordingly amend the development review fee schedule. The applicant is well aware of this, and all the language proposed in the development order to implement it and the amount of the fee has already been, the applicant has been advised. So this would be the second piece of that. This resolution, the reason it's not included in the development order, but separately, is because currently we do have another project that's a minor site plan that also has an obligation to provide affordable units, and then this will establish a fee going forward. Hopefully we will have more affordable housing coming forward, and this puts that in place to implement it and guarantee that units will remain as affordable if applicants are taking advantage of the density bonus, which is the goal here. So that we hope this ties up the circle of these things. So thank you.
Thank you. And your name for the record.
Sorry, Krista Story, Senior Assistant County Attorney.
Thank you. And we have a light on Commissioner Hurd.
Yes, the last time there was a development agreement on this property, it was the same parcel, and it was for 44 units in 2007. Is that correct?
Yes, that was for a portion of the property. There was the site has been expanded with this application
So this application is for 177 units.
on 12 acres.
Where's the requirement for affordability?
I have that. The definitions for affordable housing are found in Chapter 2 of the Comprehensive Plan. And this is the chapter that we use to establish the thresholds.
And where is it the requirement that it be in perpetuity, that these 49 units be affordable?
Well, that's in the development order that Krista.
Or the one you?
Oh, the original, sorry. So in section B of the resolution, it refers to the additional units. And if the developer commits to providing affordable housing to eligible households as defined by 2.4 of the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan. And then it's therefore commencing with the date of initial occupancy of the dwelling units shall at all times remain as affordable housing units. That's in the resolution.
And then the next sentence?
Developer may lease to any other category of affordable housing as defined in 2.4. So that's all of the categories recognized in the comprehensive plan as affordable housing.
And what if the owner violates?
That'll be a violation of the development order, and it'll be so we'd have to take action accordingly.
What action?
We'd go through the code enforcement process, and while if there's a violation of a development order, then while that process is going on, there would be a cessation of the recommendation would be for a cessation of the issuance of any further activity on the site. And
Okay, so 2 years down let's say that's built, and let's say that we're actually able to track this, and the landowner only has 30 units that are affordable. What recourse does the county have?
So your question, so they've come forward, provided us with applications for only 30 of the 49 units.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so under this development order and the requirements of the comprehensive plan, they would be prohibited from renting any of those other units to other than individuals that met the criteria for affordable housing. If we became aware of it, we would either initiate code enforcement action, or if we did not feel, if the county attorney's office determined that that was not the best process to ensure compliance, then we would evaluate going into any other type of legal action, including potentially an injunction or something such as that. So those are the options that we have. The language is as definitive and mandatory as I could make it. And so this is tied up with that increased density. The issue is, I recognize, Commissioner Hurd, probably why you're asking, and we've asked ourselves that at a staff level. Once the project is built and they have the additional units, they have the additional units.
Sure do.
So it's going to be incumbent on county as well as the applicant. We are relying on their commitment, and then we will follow up with our own tracking of that and evaluation, and be prepared to take enforcement action if we need to. We're going into this with the assumption that they understand their obligation and will proceed accordingly.
And if you don't know how many units might be eligible, how did you make the determination that they would get a density bump of 49 units?
That goes from the existing, it's 12.81 acres, so it'd be 128 acres, 128 units at the allowable at 10. So the 49 are what they have proposed as being the additional density.
So that's maximum allowable? That's how they arrived at that figure?
No, they could have.
Why not 20? Why not 15? Why 49?
Because those are all the units over the maximum allowable of 10 units.
Okay, so that's just maximum allowable. It wasn't really we can't quantify that number is correct. That's the need. We can't, there's no demonstration of need here. That was just, okay, we're eligible for 49 units, so that's what we're going to apply for.
Commissioner, the provision in the comprehensive plan is not need-based. The applicant is entitled to ask for the density bonus, and if they demonstrate compliance with the density bonus, then that is something that they are entitled to ask for. And so your staff is implementing the request of the applicant, and that is as to what they're entitled for, as what they're entitled to. You have the site plan in front of you for your consideration as to whether it demonstrates compliance with all your rules and regulations, and that is the point of this quasi-judicial hearing before you today.
And where are the affordable units? And what's the rent of these units as opposed to the other units? How many one-bedroom apartments? How many apartments with garages? Where are they? Are they scattered throughout the development? Are they isolated? Where are the units?
Yeah, I think Chris is correct. I think the applicant could probably answer a lot of those questions.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have questions for staff? Commissioner Camping?
Yes, very brief. Thank you very much. Appreciate this. First off, to have a developer that's willing to put some affordable housing units, in this particular case 49, into our mix of a huge demand in terms of how did they reach that number? 49 is the tip of the iceberg on what the demand and requirements of our community would be. Ms. Story, I appreciate how you crafted the language, but this is not the first time that this type of arrangement has been entered into between a private entity and a municipality, correct? It's not like we have to invent a process on how we're going to track these apartments. This is happening all over the country, all over the state of Florida. So I think that, and I've been following some of these, I think the way you've crafted the language is appropriate. I think that the concept of if they are offering 49 units and they're struggling to fill them, then they would just have to, put something out to the organizations that cater to these folks that are struggling, and I think the last of their problems will be, how do you fill up the 49 units of affordable housing? So if they came forward with 30 applications for you to review at $35 a piece, or whoever's going to review them, and they were 19 short, it would take a weekend to find another 19 people that can use affordable housing opportunities. So that is not a struggle for me. Those are my only questions for staff.
Okay, great. We were seeing no other questions for staff. We're going to go ahead. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Michael Dooley. I'm an agent for the applicant and also a co-applicant. And before I start, I wanted to publicly make a comment about growth management staff. They are an excellent guardian of your growth management plan. They are extremely thorough. They're tough. They're very tough, but they're also very fair. And I just wanted to compliment them for the time, effort, and energy that they put forward to make this hopefully come to a fruition. So Tradewinds is a first of its kind, really, for Martin County, and I think the name's appropriate given the winds that we're having here in the last couple days. With this development, the need for a quality rental community, a development that offers amenities that this project offers, it'll be fulfilled. It's a quality community that, for those who live there, they'll live there with pride. It's a community that offers a clubhouse with many amenities, and Mr. Bill Feinberg, our architect, will go into more detail during his presentation. The clubhouse, the pool, the manager's office, the dog park are all connected. Truly, we believe and hope that this will be the model for future communities of this type. 49 of the 177 units, approximately 30%, will be set aside for workforce housing. And I want you to think about teachers, firefighters, police, first responders, nursing. And we are dedicating to commit that percentage for the full entire 30 years. My reading of the LDRs is that 30-year commitment is really only geared to those who ask for grants. We're not asking for any grants at all. I could be wrong, but I've read it several times. Be that as it may, we're committing to that 30 years. And the construction's not going to be your T111 or board batten. It's going to be a West Indies architecture with block construction, standing seam metal roofs, impact windows, and essentially energy efficient housing. Our landscaping plan is dedicated to native landscaping. My partner is PRC Group. Mr. Kay was the founder of PRC Group and has been building for 60 years. He is widely recognized in his industry for his leadership and entrepreneur vision. He gradually grew his young company into the one of the most diversified and respected real estate entities in the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And he's a graduate from Connecticut, University of Connecticut. He currently chairs legislative committees for community reinvestment and as well as actively involved in several philanthropic organizations. In short, I'm proud. I'm proud to stand in front of this board today and take ownership in this project that we are presenting. And with that, with the chair's permission, I'd like to turn this now over to Mike McCarty, our land planner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dooley.
There he is.
Loading. All right. Well, good afternoon. Mike McCarty, McCarty and Associates, Land Planning and Design. Pleasure to be here with you today. Very exciting project to be presenting before you today.
Over. One more. Right there.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Pete. So, I have turned in the affidavit attesting the notification. Want to make sure that's on the record.
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
I'd like to turn in your presentation as well.
Yep, I've got a copy of that for you. Thank you. All right, so part of my presentation is obviously going to duplicate what staff has provided, but if you'll bear with me here, we'll hit on some of the higher points. The request for major final site plan approval for 177 units, multifamily workforce housing project in Hobe Sound. Let me give you a brief history and background on the property. The eastern 7.5 acres was previously approved in 2007 as a Heron Cove project, which consisted of 44 townhouse units that were never completed due to the economic downturn. Fast forward to 2018-2019, the property was acquired by Laurel Lane Holdings LLC and Hobe Sound Jupiter Island Properties LLC and assembled with the 6 acres fronting U.S. Federal Highway. In 2019, a future land use amendment was submitted, changing the future land use from medium density to high density, accompanied by a zoning change from RM6 Core 2 and limited commercial to what is now RM10. The future land use amendments to high density and the zoning changes to RM10 were approved by the board and adopted in 2020. Here's an image that'll provide some of the property characteristics. The property is located east side of Southeast Federal Highway, 2 miles north of Bridge Road in Hobe Sound. Project spans from Federal Highway all the way to Dixie. And the site contains rare and unique scrub habitat, which makes site planning a challenge at times. We have to preserve a minimum of 25% of the entire site. Project is bisected by existing platted right-of-ways, which is an additional challenge when it comes to site planning. But through our site planning process, we were able to provide connectivity east and west from Federal Highway to Dixie Highway, and then also north-south for future connections. The applicant is requesting a public facilities reservation in conjunction with the major final site plan approval. Adequate public facilities are available to accommodate the proposed development. Here you'll see is a rendered graphic for your reference. The design focused on clustering the development improvements to preserve the highest and the best quality habitat, this habitat being scrub habitat. The preserve areas were configured also to act as buffers to adjacent properties. Multiple preserve areas, area interfaces were incorporated into the design by providing landscaping within the stormwater treatment area adjacent to the preservation areas, thereby creating a greenway through the project connecting to those off-site. And so you can see that demonstrated along the northern limits of the property. We connected the preserve areas through retention areas that are then planted with different types of grass, and then connecting back into another preserve area that then transitions off-site and all the way northward to the adjacent property. The applicant has provided 25.8% of the site area for preservation of native habitat. We're required only to provide 25. Let me go through some of the design elements for the western side of the project, if I may. The western portion of the site fronts Southeast Federal Highway, where two large preserve areas of rare and unique scrub habitat are located, one along the northern boundary and the other along the southern boundary. A 30-foot all-native landscape buffer is along the project frontage. The primary entrance to the project is from Southeast Federal Highway with a landscaped median entry with on-street parallel parking. Two 3-story walk-up breezeway entry buildings consisting of 18 units are located on the front portion of this project. We then also have 5 3-story townhouse units with garages, which are just north there of that pool. You can see the pool there. Those are 5 townhouse units. There's also a clubhouse, so you'll see the pool, and then just south of the clubhouse here, or of the pool, there's the clubhouse, which includes a fitness center, leasing office, business center, gathering rooms with a cafe, demonstration kitchen, men and women's restrooms, and an outdoor pool incorporated just to the north. A 2-story maintenance building with a property manager's apartment is located right there next to the clubhouse as well to the south. The front portion of this project, will incorporate 59 car canopies for those able to park their car out of the weather. We also have on-street parallel parking proposed along Southeast Eagle Avenue running north-south. So that's the north-south platted right-of-way that is already existing, but we're going to put on-street parking within that streetscape. So that's the western half of the project. Now, if I can transition to the eastern side of the project, the east portion of the site spans from Southeast Eagle Avenue on the west to Dixie Highway on the east. Southeast Kimberly Way runs east-west along the project's southern boundary. So you'll see that at the bottom of the image there. That is Southeast Kimberly, Dixie on the right-hand side of the screen, and here's Eagle on the left-hand side of the screen. There are 90 units in total, consisting of 6 3-story apartment townhome buildings. So there's a mix of dwelling unit types within those buildings. Really have to tip my hat to the architect. He did a fantastic job, and he'll go into greater detail about the architecture and the function of the various buildings. You'll see along Kimberly Way we have a 20-foot landscape buffer, and the preserve area is located over here to the east, which wraps around this corner. So that provides not only the preserve requirement, but also the buffering required from these adjacent properties here. Up here in the northeast corner, this is dry retention. And so we have our buffer going around the perimeter of the retention area, and this is the retention area that has a preserve area interface planting, so it connects this preserve area through this interface to this preserve and so on, making a greenway. We also have a bioswale that we put within the parking lot. You'll see in the middle of this parking lot, we broke this up by putting in a retention area and then planting it with the appropriate plant material to create a bioswale. So we break up that asphalt, that sea of asphalt, if you will. Landscaping. Here's a couple of high points regarding landscaping and some of the requirements of the land development regulations. We're required to provide 20% of our site must be landscaped. We're actually providing 27.2%. So we surpass the code minimum requirements. The next section of the code shown here, 4.663.A3A of the LDRs, contemplates the number of trees required based on the site area, development area. We surpass that code requirement as well, you'll see. 276 trees would be the minimum, and we're providing 322 trees and 196 palms. So we are far and above the code minimum requirements. We also, this next statement here is with regard to the landscape buffers. Along US Highway 1, we're required to have a 50-foot landscape buffer, but with the application of a all-native, 100% native buffer, we can reduce that down to 30 feet. So applicant complies with all the landscape requirements of the code. And this is touching base on the workforce housing element of the project. High-density residential development designation is reserved for land near employment centers in the core of the primary urban service district. The maximum density is 10 units per gross acre. However, sites shall be approved for a maximum of 15 per gross acre, assuming compliance with all of the following criteria. So here are the 4 criteria that are required to demonstrate compliance to qualify for the workforce housing. We have demonstrated compliance on all of these 4 items, and we are proposing a density of 13.81 units per acre permitted as per this comprehensive growth management plan policy.
Mr. McCarty, while you're in a stopping point, I'm just trying to plan for a closed captioning break.
Sure.
Can you give me approximately how much longer do you have on your presentation?
We're nearly there.
Okay.
I'm going to turn it over to our architect where he can discuss the architecture briefly, and then we'll be on our way.
Okay, wonderful, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioners, for giving us the opportunity today to present the project. You just heard from Mike McCarty, our planner. He kind of walked you through the site plan. He took you through from west to east side, basically looking at the different product types. Just as Mr. Dooley had mentioned, this is really an upscale type of project for this applicant. So with the West Indies feel up on the screen, there's a picture of the 2 buildings that are on US 1. They're broken up into smaller segments. There are 18 units within that building, each of those buildings. They're 3 stories tall. They have breezeway entrances and parking on both sides of the buildings. With that, we have 2 different product types that are in there that are basically 1-bedroom flats or apartments and 2-bedroom flats, ranging in square footage from about 750 up to about 1,150 square feet. That's basic floor plan for that layout. Within the westerly portion of the project and fronted on our parking lot and also fronted on Eagle Road is our clubhouse, again keeping with the West Indies feel. The entrance, because we kind of are bifurcated by Eagle Road, we have entrances on both sides of this clubhouse. So someone living on the west side of the project can enter directly into a lobby. Someone on the east side of the project can also enter into a lobby. From an upscale standpoint, you've heard earlier from Mike McCarthy that we have a fitness center, and we gave you some images because we're looking to have an upscale, sleek kind of fitness center, which is an image that's up in the upper right-hand corner. In the projects today that we're working on with this applicant, we also provide a demonstration kitchen. So we're looking for local chefs and local restaurants to come in, have a Friday night where they're going to teach people or work with the tenants to learn how to cook sauces or their specialty dishes. So we want to have this a very active community center. So the image in the upper left-hand corner next to the fitness center is our demonstration kitchen, or a vision of that. We also have a big lounge area. Adjacent to that, we have some tables set up for impromptu conference within the building. We have a business center that's also set up as part of this project. And we also have a leasing center that'll be accommodating tenants and our leasing applications. We also have an outdoor pool. You heard we have a dog run, outdoor pool. These are some of the visions of what we're looking at in terms of the outdoor pool. We also have project, on this west side of the project, we have 5 townhomes. So these are 1,750 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bath, 1-car garage, townhomes to attract a family type of tenant to our project. So this vision, again, these are 3 stories, individual townhouses with muted colors. We've also broken up the roof so it's not one continuous building. Looks like individual homes on the project. This is a typical floor plan I just described with about approximately 1,750 square feet. Also on the west side, adjacent.
One moment, Commissioner Smith has a
Can I
comment.
interrupt just?
Yeah, sure.
Can you go back one screen?
Yeah.
Just curious, because I'm really fascinated with all of this. What are the widths?
These units are,
That's what I had to
I
do
think
too.
they're
and I
about
couldn't-
21 feet, 20 foot.
Perfect.
Approximately.
curious.
We have a 1-car garage, plus we have storage in the garage, trash cans would be in the garage. So this way, bicycles, all that can be stored in the garage.
Thank you.
This is our manager's apartment, which is up on the 2nd floor. On the 1st floor, we have a garage for maintenance. We have a maintenance office and bathroom, and we have a workshop, and it's approximately about 2,200 square feet in total. I'll just pass through the floor plans. So on the easterly portion of the project, we have 2 different building types. So as you look at the front elevation for the project, and you have to remember, these 3 buildings that 21 unit buildings face both on the Kimberly Way and interior to our parking lot. So we want it to look like they were individual townhouses. If you look at it just from the fact that we have different colors in terms of the stucco material, within each one of those little modules, there are 3 units. So on the 1st floor, in some locations, we have a 1-bedroom apartment, about 750 square feet, and we have 2 1-car garages. Above that, there are 2 townhouses. So the individual apartment on the 1st floor has its own entrance directly either from the parking lot or from the street. Excuse me. And the 2nd floor townhouses, which there are 2, they have an individual entrance on the parking lot side. They come up a common set of stairs, and then they'll go into their 1st floor. So on the 1st floor, the living room, dining room, kitchen, internal stair in each one of those townhouses, and then they'll go up to 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, laundry room. So when you're looking at this plan, in each one of these little modules, you're looking at 3 units. The townhouse units range about 1,275 square feet. There's 2-bedroom flats on the 1st floor where there's no garage. They're about 1,200 square feet, 1,225. And the 1-bedroom where the 2-car garage, it's about 750 to 850 square feet. And these are typical floor plans showing, the 1st floor flats and then the upper floor townhomes. And then we have 3 buildings that are 20-floorplex units, again, to break this up into smaller modules, make them look like tight lot single families or townhomes. Same type of product with 2 townhomes on the second floor and either a 1-bedroom apartment with two 1-car garages and or a 2-bedroom flat and all these entrances will face into our parking lot because to the north we're up against preserve area. So that's generally a cross-section of the product that we're proposing for the project.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Smith.
Just a general comment. I commend you on your designs and your architecture. I wish a lot of our projects that we had come forward would come with that kind of detail and really nice architecture. So if you want to come do some work up in Jensen, let me know and we'll.
Well, thank you. I've come down here and done some work over the years, and your applicant and Mr. K and Mr. Dooley.
I mean,
really
we're not like it's not like you can only work in Hobe Sound. You're more welcome to
be okay
come up to Jensen and do some work up there.
Let's finish what we started.
I think.
Come on.
I think you'll be very happy with it. I think the cross-section of different types of product and different square footages really will cater to the people in Hobe Sound. So.
I'm sure I would move pending public comment. I'm sure staff's recommendation with Krista the additional supplemental language that you offered at the beginning of the staff's presentation.
Second.
That would be with the additional resolution, yes, sir.
Yeah.
There's 2 resolutions required to be adopted, yes, sir.
Yeah. Can I do that all in one? Both resolutions as one?
Yes, sir.
And that's my motion.
Great. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith and second by Commissioner Jenkins. Sir, before you leave the podium, please state your name for the record.
I'm sorry, William Feinberg, Feinberg.
Great. And we will take public comment. I do not have any speaker. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Hurd.
Yes. I heard from the applicant that the affordable requirement was for 30 years, and I heard from staff that the requirement was forever, which is, I don't see.
It is forever. I'm sorry, that was, yes, I think Mr. Dooley's referring to many communities. There's a 30-year time frame on that. Mr. McCarthy, not to be confused with Mr. McCarty, the attorney involved in it, he knows that, and that was that's why the resolution does not have. Neither resolution has anything about a 30-year. It is from now forward. Those units must remain affordable. That's our comprehensive plan requirement.
And where are the units? The question is, where are the units? The 49 units?
You're talking about specifically within the project?
Yes.
And Mike Dooley for the record again. Market's going to determine where these units are going to be placed. It made no sense whatsoever to point out this unit, this unit, this unit. Our commitment, our obligation, our responsibilities is to make sure that 49 of those units are rented to workforce housing folks annually every year. And so there may be 20 of them in a 2-bedroom, there may be 5 here, there may be 3 in a 1-bedroom. Market's going to determine that. And that's your answer, Sarah, or Commissioner Hurd, I apologize. That's your answer. There's no way to specifically isolate unit A, B, and C as a workforce housing unit. That's the answer for you.
Well, that's convenient for you, but it's not enforceable, and it's not appropriate. If we're going to commit to affordable housing, and it's a laudable goal, it's a worthy goal, but to say, you know what, we, Martin County, we're going to approve these units, but we are not going to enforce where they are. We're not going to say you have to have this many 1-bedroom units, this many 2-bedroom units, this many townhome units, this many on the west side, this many on the east side. Those are the kinds of requirements that must be put into this agreement in order to make it you eligible for the 49 unit bump. if we're not going to be able to enforce the units, then what's to keep the applicant, the owner, from using the 49 least valuable units for the affordable units? There's no requirement for you to provide any townhomes, any 2 bedrooms, any 3 bedrooms.
So my table up here looks like a Christmas tree. So Commissioner Campy, I believe your light came on first.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like an answer to my question.
Oh, I'm happy to address that question. In
So am
many
I.
jurisdictions, Terry McCarthy for the record, most jurisdictions that I work in on projects like this will not allow you to identify the units because then those people are going to be segregated.
Or
They want you to bring them in and put them wherever they are. Nobody knows who they are in there except the owner of the property. So they're not identified as affordable. The last thing you want to do is have, oh, this guy's affordable. Yeah, that guy over there is affordable. You don't want to do that.
You don't paint the doors red on those houses. I think exactly the case. They're supposed to be anonymous. They're not supposed to be stigmatized that, oh, that's the kids that live in the affordable unit houses. That's absolutely the wrong strategy, would be to identify them. And if the market is 1 bedroom for 5 years and then you realize 10 years in that it's actually 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, then to have that flexibility is 100% appropriate. 100%.
Okay, great. Do you have a light on, Mr. Schilling?
I'll withdraw my light. Thank you.
Okay.
Great idea.
And Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, I'm not going to support this project. It's wholly incompatible with the neighborhood. There are single-family dwellings to the south exclusively, and these are going to be the maximum height allowable, and also with an additional 30% density bump. I don't see the requirement for affordability. I don't see that we're going to be able to track the rent, or whether and the enforceability of providing affordable units isn't there for the county. I think it's going to be impossible for us to track compliance. So as I said, it's a laudable goal, but the county fell far short in making this an enforceable agreement.
Okay, we have one more comment from Commissioner Campy, and then we have a motion and a second on them.
And I have one more comment too. Did we swear people in at the beginning?
Yes, we did. Okay, Commissioner Campy.
With all due respect to my colleague, I disagree. I mean, you can't say that it's a laudable goal and then wherever an applicant comes forward, a developer comes forward with a beautiful plan to treat people respectfully. We're spending a lot of our time talking about the affordable unit component here, but it's also a beautiful development. It's infill, it's in the proper areas, they've done all the homework, they've checked the boxes. To say that staff has fallen inadequately short or somehow they're not doing their jobs, I personally disagree. This is not the first time it's 49 units. The county staff, we have legal and growth management and everyone else. These are experts, these are professionals. They crafted language that they didn't just invent. This is happening all over the country. That it's tracking 49 units. And if you don't give people, if you try to build compatible to where everyone originally exists, you'll build a handful of single-family homes. It won't be economically viable for a developer to do it, so there won't be affordable housing. And we will talk about affordable housing, but once again, we will never do it. So you cannot advocate for affordable housing, but vote down every project that has ever come forward. You need to have a little increase in density. This increase in density, the architect explained that they've done everything they could to make them look individual and unique and worthwhile. There's something to be said about not having development, but there's something to be said for beautiful projects that people that live in them can be proud of and live near them can be proud of, and that's exactly what this is. Thank you for doing it in Martin County.
Great. And one final comment, but I know that this one will be brief. Commissioner Jenkins.
Agree.
I was trying to support this project without saying anything, and this is why I don't have to say much. I agree with everything you said to a T. This is a project that is desperately needed in our, if you look at the inventory of what you could call affordable housing in our South County area, it's disgusting. So, you know, kudos to you. The architecture and everything you've done has, you know, when our beginning of our conversation about this has far exceeded my expectation of what the end product would be. So I am in full support of it. You know, we talk about affordable housing. We have an opportunity to support it, and here we are.
I would simply echo both of your comments, and we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting. And then that brings us to our lunch break and closed captioning break. So we will see you back at 2 p.m. Here.